excuse us, we're caucusing for a moment. We have a large we have large turnover this year. We have 2 new board members, 3 of us returning, and I'm Charles Smith. I've been the chair years ago. Mr. Russell and Ms. Freshman and myself are the 3 returning members. Ms. Malice and Mr. Melnick are new, so we're trying to determine who's going to be the chair tonight and possibly in the future. I think we just made a decision.
Oh, short straw. What do you want to do? Right at the end, or?
We're going to call this meeting to order, and I'm going to make a motion that we elect for tonight's meeting Terry Russell, chair.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of Terry Russell serving as chair tonight signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Russell.
Then I believe we need, is this just for tonight, or do we?
Let's just do because the next meeting we'll do a organizational.
Okay, we'll do organizational meeting at the next meeting, so let me proceed with this meeting. Good evening and welcome to the monthly meeting of the Arlington Board of Zoning Appeals, which is also known as the BZA. I am Terry Russell, acting chair of the BZA for this evening. The board is made up of 5 citizens appointed by the Circuit Court. In addition to me, I have Charles Smith on my right, Paul Melnick on my left, Judy Freshman to my far left, and Inta Malice to my far right. And we welcome Paul and Inta as new members with this meeting. Also present is professional staff, including Deputy Zoning Administrator Andrew Noxon, who serves as Secretary of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Absent is Norma Cozart this evening, who's our zoning administrator, but we have Essie Corbin, Deputy Zoning Administrator, in her place. Clifton Hogan, Assistant to the Zoning Administrator, is with us, and Cheryl Williams, our zoning technician, to my far right. We thank you for being here and extend a warm welcome on a cold evening. Before anything else, I apologize for the construction going on in the building, so we will constantly hear this for some hours, I believe. We have for the last few meetings. To avoid disruptions, we ask that you please turn off your cell phones or pagers and put them in silent mode. On the front table, you will find copies of the staff report for each case before us this evening. I recommend that if you have not seen that report for your case, that you get a copy and review it before your case is called. The board's powers are prescribed in the Code of Virginia and are set out in further detail in the county's zoning ordinance adopted by the county board. The Board of Zoning Appeals does not have the power to rezone property or to amend the regulations set forth in the ordinance. That authority rests with the county board. This board does have the authority to do 3 things. We can approve use permits that allow modifications of placement requirements for structures on 1- and 2-family lots where there is no option in the zoning ordinance to allow such modifications. We can grant variances from the specific requirements of the zoning ordinance, and we can decide appeals of decisions of the zoning administrator. When approving use permits, the Board of Zoning Appeals may impose conditions that it deems necessary in the public interest, including limiting the duration of the use permit. In order to approve a use permit, the law requires that the board find that the proposal meet conditions and that the use permit will not adversely affect the health or safety of persons residing in the neighborhood, will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood, and will not be in conflict with the purposes of the master plans and land use and zoning related policies of the county. To do this, the BZA shall consider whether the modification will promote compatibility of development with the surrounding neighborhood because the structure's overall footprint, size, and placement are similar to the structures on the properties surrounding the lot in question, and whether the modification will help preserve natural landform, historical features, and/or significant trees and foliage. When granting variances, the board must determine that the strict application of the ordinance would produce undue hardship, that the hardship is not generally shared by other properties in the same zoning district, and that the authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property, and that the character of the district will not be changed by the granting of the variance. A Virginia Supreme Court ruling requires that a variance cannot be granted unless the effect of the zoning ordinance, as applied to the piece of property under consideration, would, in the absence of a variance, interfere with all reasonable beneficial uses of the property taken as a whole. When deciding appeals of the zoning administrator, the board must determine if the administrator acted correctly. This evening, cases will be called, and a brief staff report and recommendation will be given. Following that, board members will ask any questions of the staff they may have. Next, applicants or their representative will be given an opportunity to make comments to support the application or appeal. If they choose to make a comment, they must come forward to the podium so that their comments can be recorded for the record. Next, all speakers for the item will be called. Speakers must fill out a speaker's slip, which is available on the table in the front of the room. After we hear from speakers for and against the proposal, the board may permit the applicant a brief opportunity to clarify any points, and the board may ask questions of any speakers, but does not permit and will not condone any cross-examination or direct questioning by others. When you fill out your speaker slip, you give them to Ms. Williams over to the right here. We have deemed the following time limits for speakers to be sufficient. 5 minutes for applicants for use permits and variances. For use permits and variances, we have deemed 3 minutes for representatives of organizations and 2 minutes for individuals as sufficient. After the board has gathered all the information they need and discussed the case, it will decide the matter by voting on a motion duly made and seconded. A majority is needed to approve any motion. Any appeal from the decision of the board must be made to the circuit court in accordance with state law. After your case of interest is heard, you are welcome to stay for the balance of the session or leave at your convenience. Thank you very much for being here this evening. Please call the first case, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you very much, and good evening. Our first case tonight is case number V-10973-15-APP-1. This is an appeal by Thomas Sapusik and Francis Field, and this is the appeal of a rejection of a building permit by the zoning administrator affirming that the subject property is not a buildable lot. This is in the R8 zoning district on a premises known as 3200 Lorcom Wayne.
I do not have any speaker slips. Board members?
Resolution is to withdraw.
Yes. Have a motion, please.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Smith.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution, which is asking to withdraw the subject appeal.
Moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Freshman.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry.
may I ask a procedural question? It refers to an attached resolution. I don't see a resolution attached. Is that customary?
The resolution is just to withdraw.
I think that's standard language. Staff may technically have put that in there by mistake, but we don't need a resolution to accept a withdrawal. Thank
Thank
for
you.
finding that for us, Ms. Malice. Are we ready for a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes carry. I vote aye. Please.
Next case is V-10970-14-UP-2. This is a use permit request by Benjamin Moncars and Catherine Otis to permit a setback of 15.2 feet to the porch and two-story addition from the 20th Road North right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required, and 12.6 feet to the porch, one-story rear addition, and two-story addition from the North Randolph Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. And finally, to permit a structure in excess of 2.5 stories within 25 feet of a street right-of-way. It's for the construction of a new front porch, a new two-story addition above the existing main building footprint, a new one-story rear addition, and a new right-side egress window well. This is in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 4054 20th Road North.
Does any member of the board have any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Freshman?
as the applicant has requested the deferral, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution to defer the subject use permit to the March 11, 2015 BZA hearing.
Second.
The motion has been made by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries.
Okay, the next case tonight, this is V-1972-14-UP-1, and this is a carryover from last meeting. This is a use permit request by Lynn Capusta to permit a setback of 9 feet to the porch eave and 10 feet to the porch base, 14.3 feet to the eave and 15.3 feet to the wall of the home and the bay window from the 21st Road North right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. Also 10.2 feet to the rear deck, 19 feet to the left side deck, and 15.3 feet to the eave and 16.3 feet to the wall of the home and the bay window from the rear property line instead of 25 feet as required. This is all for the construction of a new basement below the existing main building footprint, new 1 1/2 story addition above the existing main building footprint, a front porch, rear deck, a left side deck, and 2 right side window wells. This is in the R5 zoning district premises known as 4132 21st Road North.
I do have speakers for this case. Before I call speakers or the applicant, does the members of the board have any comments or questions for the staff? If not, this is a deferral request.
No, this was deferred from the December hearing.
Okay, I've gotten lost. Could we go back to where we had carryovers and withdrawals and variants? We weren't doing those case by case?
We're just doing them in order of the agenda.
2 deferrals. Well,
We did the first 2 already.
Or not, because we only did this one withdrawal.
But it's
We
confusing.
did one deferral. There's 2
Shouldn't we
more.
be doing 10-982?
I suppose we can if you'd like.
Let's do that.
The other deferrals?
Certainly, we can do that.
I thought we did these in order.
We do sometimes. I didn't hear of anybody actually showing up
I
for these, so we're not going to worry about it.
We're doing them in order and not in the order of this, where we take care of all of these and get them out of the way.
We can if you'd like I said.
Not if that's, I totally apologize to the public. This slide threw me off, which it isn't hard to do that. So we are with 972, and I do have, so this is a case we're hearing, and we need to hear from the applicant.
That's correct.
Very sorry to everyone. Could we please hear from the applicant? Is anyone here representing a use permit request by Lynn Capusta, owner? Okay, then shall I call the speakers then? Lita Miller, please, to be followed by Philip McGeorge.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smith.
I'm going to ask a question real quickly of staff beforehand. Was there any contact with the the agent of Ms. Kapustik? Because I don't see them in the audience.
As far as I knew, Mr. Gerard Zaid, who's been here the last few times, he was going to be here, and so I'm not sure what happened since then.
Good evening and Happy New Year, since the last time we saw you. I'm thinking that the hour for us to be hearing this might be a little bit earlier for him than we've been used to talking to you. But thank you for listening to us. I think that my neighbors and I agree that the applicant has still not reduced the property, the size of the project small enough for the size of this lot that's being discussed. She's still pushing it to the extremes of up, right, left, forwards, back, and we still are against a 5-room house in this very small lot. And as was asked by my neighbor, about what would happen if we came back and said it was a reasonably sized project, would we then be interested and okay with this? And I think we would be okay if it was a reasonable size, but 5-bedroom, 4.5 bath, 2 laundry, 3 decks is too much for this piece of land. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Philip McGeorge.
Good evening. I'm here to just reiterate what my neighbor said. We're in opposition to this, as well as a lot of the other neighbors on our street, pretty much all of the owner-occupied neighbors that live on the street. We've gone over our case many times for this street and the proposed development of this applicant, and for what we're seeing, our views haven't changed. I don't think our arguments have changed. I don't see why they should be changed for what we're seeing as the product being asked for. So we did get signatures again, reiterating what we've already put in writing on the previous hearings. I'd just like to maybe submit them again for everybody. Again, signed by a number of the neighbors, including some additional neighbors this time. I don't have much more to add to that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm unclear as to, are the speakers objecting to the staff recommendation?
Well, you can ask this speaker.
That's what I was going to.
I'm not really sure, because I'm not really sure. We're opposed to granting a variance and a use permit to, having a variance to the setbacks and height restrictions and all the restrictions that come with an R5, 4,000 square foot approximately lot, and putting a 3.5 or 4, 3.5 structure on it. That when you look at the floor plans and you look at the structure on the outside, looks like a house facade, but in size and floor plan and use in the neighborhood, it seems very much like a multifamily. And so the size is allowing for that, and a lot of these decks that have been proposed or being asked for, we've seen on other properties of the applicants that are multifamily homes, and then she comes back in a year and asks for them to be enclosed. So we have a lot of concerns about a project on this property. Again, asking for a variance to just put something that's not supposed to be put on this lot, with the size of the lot and the setbacks and all that stuff.
I understand. I'm trying to parse out the issues because we don't deal with all of the issues that you're concerned about. We don't deal with how many bedrooms are in the, or how tall, if it's within the zoning, we can't change how tall it is. We're limited to the things that are in the staff report. And so I'm not sure if we can entirely address your concerns. We have to deal with what our powers are here, and those are the ones that have to do with setbacks that have been described in the staff report.
Right, and I guess some of the things I'm addressing are in addition to that, but we have put in writing, and all the neighbors are on board, that we're just opposed to granting a variance to go higher than what's allowed for the zoning and for the setbacks and the square footage, and creeping into those setbacks and those kind of things.
Okay, so you oppose any changes in the setbacks?
Yes,
Okay.
Anything outside of what is allowed by right.
Thank you. Thank you for indulging me.
I've submitted this prior just today, though. I don't know if I can submit this. Again, signatures. People, a lot of neighbors couldn't be here tonight that have been here before or have done in writing. I don't know if I can submit this.
You want to submit it now, or do we already have it?
I think you already have it. I've presented it to Mr. Noxon electronically, so if you have it, then that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just say at this point that the applicant's representative has arrived. The case was called, and we already started public testimony because you weren't here. Let me take the additional speaker that I have, and then we'll get to you. And that would be Terrence Wilson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I think my neighbors and friends, Phil and Lita, have already explained the situation fairly well. Our opposition to any use permits and variances which go against what the law already states. Basically, she's just trying to overpopulate the neighborhood, trying to pack as many people as she can in so she can make more rent. It's fairly obvious. She doesn't seem to have too much concern for the other residents and homeowners. So that's why we're, again, renewing our opposition. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's all. That concludes the public testimony. So I'd like to go now, unless there are any questions from the board before I move to the applicant. And I'd like to go to the applicant's representative, Zay Gerard. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay.
Good
And I'd
evening.
ask you to speak up. We've got this
Sure.
dental drilling going on here
Yeah.
that's driving us nuts. And it
All right.
makes it hard to hear.
Sure. Good evening. We were here last time, and we heard the neighbors' comments. And sorry.
You're going to have to speak up a lot
All right.
more.
So,
Raise the podium.
all right.
The whole podium itself, there's a button to your right.
Can you hear me now?
Keep coming.
Is that good? Yeah, it's on. All right. Good evening. We were here last time, and we heard the comments of the neighborhood, and we took that into consideration, and the staff as well. So we made changes to accommodate for that. A lot of people are concerned about the rental of, what's to happen with the property. I advised the owner that, being that she has multifamily dwellings on the street, that she should rent this out for a single family, and that's what the plan is. As far as number of bedrooms, I mean, anybody wants to maximize number of bedrooms and bathrooms just to get the value on the house. I feel like we made the changes that we wanted to make, and there's some comment by the staff about the wet bar sink that we have to fill a new application for that, and absolutely that's something we will want to do. It seems like the staff are denying the front porch and all the houses on the street, like right adjacent to that property or across the street, have a front porch that is so close to the front property line. And I have some pictures here. If I can pass these on to you. Would you want to look at it?
You can provide us with any information that you want us to see. Okay. Thank you. We have to keep it. This is on the same street?
Yes, absolutely. There's one right adjacent to the property, and the ones across from the street. Their front porches actually are closer to the front property line than what we're proposing. We reduced the size of front porch from 6 feet to 5. Anything smaller than that will probably be not usable. And it just feels like the front porch will actually promote compatibility with the rest of the structures that are on the street.
I have another question for you. Well,
Sure.
we were in that exchange. Board doesn't mind. So you continue to want those things that the staff is recommending denial of, including the front porch and the rear deck?
I mean, we would like for them, just for the fact that the front porch will just promote the compatibility with the neighborhood. It's just nice, a nicer home with the front porch. The rear deck, I mean, I'm willing to take the board's or the staff recommendation. If they want to cut the size even to half of it, just to have like a balcony for like a morning coffee, that would be nice. So we'll just take our chances with these.
Do you have anything else you'd like to tell us as the applicant's representative?
That's all. Thank you.
All right. Does the board members have any questions of the applicant's representative? None for the applicant. Does the board have questions for the staff? Good. Ms. Malice.
So there's a table in here that shows the setbacks and compares the setbacks to other properties. And your recommendation is that the setbacks that are being requested here are similar to what has already been granted?
Somewhat. Some of the porches, I would say, are a little closer, but these are porches that were built before there was a zoning ordinance. These are not newer structures that have, been built in the last 2 years or so. So these have been around since before probably around the 30s and 40s. And generally, staff is not supportive of porches that are closer than 15 feet unless you have some severe hardship of some sort.
But the setbacks that are in the chart are similar,
Correct.
are within the range that BZA has approved before?
They have.
Mr. Naxon, my concern is that, there is neighborhood opposition to this, but I don't believe the neighborhood fully understands what our role here is or what our powers are here. And I don't know how to bridge that gap as I sit here tonight. Is this a situation that's come up before?
Mr. Smith?
Mr. Chairman, as Ms. Malice was trying to point out, and this is to the neighbors more than anyone else, the height is not an issue. The interior, how they configure the interior is not an issue. The proximity of the front yard setback porch, that's an issue. And of course the deck in the back, those are significant issues. What staff has recommended is that we not support a use permit that would grant the porch and the deck on the back, but the bay windows, essentially the rest of the request would be supported. And as Ms. Malice pointed out, the charts in the staff report show comparisons to other structures in the neighborhood that have similar kinds of setbacks. So and these are folk from this community who have come on a number of different occasions because Ms. Capuzza owns a number of properties in that area and is constantly trying to improve and develop them. So trying to convey what the limitations are that we have, and that disregarding let me put it like this. The kinds of requests that, aside from the front and the back, that the applicant is making, it's not out of character. It won't change the character of the zoning district. It won't adversely affect any property owners that are contiguous, and it won't be of detriment. So it's the kind of thing that I won't say routinely, but because we view each case individually, but it's the kind of thing that we are often faced with. And we understand, especially in this context where there have been a number of building projects by this owner that have appeared to be disruptive, and some of the properties that she owns are rental properties, and we know that does not in a zone, because we can't control how an owner uses their property, whether it's rented or owner occupied. And we know that sometimes the community or community neighbors feel that the folk who don't own homes and live there, who are renters, are less neighborly. But we'd hope that you understand what our limitations are, and also what the rights of a property owner are, and that when we look at these cases, we do look hard, we listen very carefully, and these are folk from the community who we've met with on a number of occasions, at least 4 or 5 that I recall, and we hear, and I know that the staff also hears very well. The staff also tries to be uniform in that the way that they approach properties are, yes, they listen to the comments by the neighbors, but they try to approach properties all over the community in the same way and use the same kind of analysis. So while you might hear us support things where there's opposition, it's not that we don't hear what the concerns are.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman?
Smith. Ms. Freshman?
I am inclined to agree with the staff's conclusion, and I'm prepared to make a motion if you're ready for it, or when you're ready for it.
Ms. Freshman?
Go.
Yes.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution denying the use permit for the new front porch and a new rear deck, but approving a use permit for a setback of 14.3 feet to the eave, 15.3 feet to the wall of the home and the bay window from the 21st Road North right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required, and 19 feet to the left side deck, and 15.3 feet to the eave and 16.3 feet to the wall of the home and the bay window from the rear property line instead of 25 feet as required, in order to permit structural alterations to a non-conforming building and for the construction of a new basement below the existing main building footprint, a new 1 1/2 story addition above the existing main building footprint, a left side deck, and 2 new right side window wells.
Second.
The motion has been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Smith. Is there any discussion? If not, I call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to be clear, so basically we're approved for the additions, but not the front porch and the rear deck, if I'm not mistaken. All right, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Those are part of the record. Part of the record.
Okay. Our next case tonight is another return customer. This is V-10920-14-UP-2. This is a use permit request by Tree Lee to permit a setback of 4.3 feet to the 2 air conditioning units from the right side property line instead of 5 feet as required, 4.2 feet to the egress window well, and 7.2 feet to the wall of the home from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required, and also 21.3 feet to the cantilevered bays, and 17.8 feet to the eave, and 20.6 feet to the wall of the home from the North Roosevelt Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required, 14.6 feet to the egress window well, and 14.3 feet to the eave, and 15.4 feet to the wall of the home from the 11th Street North right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. This is for the construction of a new 2 1/2 story single-family home with a front stoop with stairs, 2 projecting bays, a left side porch with stairs, 1 left side and 1 right side egress window well, 2 right side air conditioning units. This is in the R6 zoning district on premises known as 1100 North Roosevelt Street.
Thank you, Mr. Knox. And does the board members have questions of staff? If not, let's hear from the applicant or the applicant's representative, please.
Good afternoon. I'm the owner of the, I'm Trilly, the owner of the,
Wait, you're going to have to speak up, my friend. Yeah.
yes, good afternoon. I'm the applicant of the 1100 North Roosevelt Street.
And your name is, sir? I apologize.
My name is Tree, last name is Lee.
Tree Lee. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I have 13 more signatures from my neighbor supporting for my application.
Thank you. Good. You can give that to us. Thank you. We'll make that part of the record for you. So what would you like to tell us?
I would like to get a permit for the building permit. I have not.
Well, would you prefer we just ask questions if we have any
Yes, sir.
from you?
Yes.
That's fine. Ms. Freshman?
You had an approval to build a new home on this site, correct?
Correct, yes.
So would you explain why or how you changed the new dwelling so that it now is back here and you're requesting approval?
Yes. the approval for the original approval for the building, it was bigger than the one that I'm proposing to build now. It has 2.5 storage, and now it's only 1.5. I'm making it smaller. I'm removing the garage, and the footprint of the house is smaller, and the height of the house is lower than it was approved by the board. I'm removing the areaway closer to North Roosevelt Street to the back of the house instead of the front of the house. That's the modified of this proposal.
And
Ms. Mount?
So in your original plans, did you need approval for the location of the air conditioning units?
Yes, I was applying for the variance last time, and it was approved by the board, and it has an attic, and I was removing the attic. The addition of the house it was a lot bigger than what I'm proposing now, which is like 26.5. It was 38. Now I'm applying for only 26.5 instead of 38 that it was approved.
But you didn't, did the air conditioning units work in the original approval? Did you have a place for them?
The air conditioning unit was not at the place that I'm asking for now. Is because it was to the end of the additional of the 38 instead of now it's only 26. So
Ms. Mouse, so if you had them on the back, you'd need relief from that distance as well, right?
On the right side of the house, you would.
On the
The right, what we're calling the right lot line.
yeah, they're currently proposed to be on the right.
That's right.
Needs relief from that.
That's correct.
If you moved them down into the back, what I'd call the back of the addition, would they need any variance there? Could they be done as a matter of right?
No, if he put it on the left side of the garage as you're looking from 11th Street, he could meet the 5 feet. And that's where they were actually shown before when he came to us a few months back.
Yeah, you're saying, is that a garage? Yeah, that's a garage. Yeah, okay, right behind that stairway that's there.
That's correct.
Okay, that was my thinking looking at it as well. So there's
In this little niche right here, in that area.
right. So there's a by right alternative for actually here.
Oh, here, okay.
can I say something?
Comes in here.
Just a minute, sir.
No.
We want to get clear. You understand what I'm saying, which is because Mr. Smith so if I'm looking at the garage, it's on the left side behind the stairway.
That's right.
Right. Okay. Thank you. We're clear now.
Yes.
Sir.
Since the house is at the corner, that will be the front of the house too.
Well, you mean
Behind the
it could
stair-
be seen from the street.
Yes.
Okay. But it would not require the granting of some relief from this board for that. And the staff is not recommending that. So if we didn't approve it, it would have to be moved to somewhere that it would be allowed as a matter of right.
Yes, correct. And it will be seen from the street. It's because the house is at the corner.
Okay.
Here.
Thank you.
I think the point is that because it's a corner, yes, you have visibility, but you can screen it. It doesn't have to be an eyesore, but it should be in what it looks like, the back or the side. And so that you don't have to try to put it in on the right side where it encroaches into the side yard and is too close to your neighbor.
You can put it there, it's not,
have you explored other options with the window wells? Because that's another thing that's causing an issue with the staff, where they're recommending denial, but what other issues are possible with the window wells?
The other option that I have for the window, if it's not approved, it's because the current location now of the house is 10 inches less than 7.2 feet instead of 8 feet that it was required. If I have put in a window well on the right hand side, it will be 10 inches encroaching to the other encroaching 10 inches.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. Are the windows presently there and those windows stay, or are they reconstructed? Are those walls reconstructed?
The window is there, but it's not a window well on the right hand side.
Short window rather than a deeper window?
Yes, sir.
I see. Let me ask a follow-up question of staff with that. Would these window wells, the tops of them, be flush with essentially with the grade of the yard, or is there some?
They would stick out about 2 inches above the grade, so pretty much. Just like you would see an areaway, there's just a little lip so that water and things don't wash into it. He does have another issue, though. Code would mostly require them to have a 3x3 interior clearance on the window well. So even if he did get this approved, he would have to be closer than the 4.7 feet or 4.3 feet he's asking. Now, that's only required if he has a bedroom down there. He doesn't have any bedrooms proposed right now. It looks like just an unfinished basement. But if he had a bedroom, he would need 3x3 of interior clearance, then the wall of it, which would put him even closer. So he has an issue with that as well.
Thank you for that clarification. We're done with questions of the applicant at this point. I do not have any speaker slips for this case. It's with the board. You can sit down if you want. We'll call you back up if we have more questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Board members, questions? Thoughts?
Well, Mr. Chairman, one about, in last year when we acted on this, the window well wasn't a part of the original application back in June?
It was not.
And so I guess I didn't really understand from the applicant what the purpose of that window well is on that side. There's one on the other side. I guess if he was going to try to divide it. And then your point, Mr. Noxon, is that even if they tried to put a bedroom there, he's going to have a problem with, I guess, wanting a window well on that side so he could have two rooms down there. The 3x3 is the problem with that wall to the well, I guess the front wall or this side. There isn't 3 feet between the window well and that wall. Is that what the problem is? You said there needed to be a 3-foot clearance.
Yes, the interior of it needs to be 3x3, 3 feet wide by 3 feet deep. And then you have a wall or something around it. You can get those corrugated metal ones, but that still adds about an inch or two into the setback.
Oh, so his interior is not 3 feet. It's shy of 3 feet
That's
by
correct.
probably 6 inches or whatever the width of his.
Inside the well.
Gotcha. It's too shallow. If he made it bigger, he's going to encroach even further.
Exactly. And if code made him do that, and after inspection and his wall check, we find out he's 6 inches to a foot closer, then he's back in front of you again.
I wonder if the applicant really understands that. Mr.
Mr. Lee, would you come back, please?
I had some contact with his contractor over at whoever was drawing the plans, I guess the architect. I never heard back about it.
Now, an earlier question of mine was going to be, was there a contractor involved? Okay. Mr. Chairman, did you understand what we were talking about in terms of the window well being too small?
I wasn't aware of the size of the window well was not
With the
qualified.
outside dimension 3 feet, the inside dimension is going to be less than 3 feet, and the inside dimension has to be 3 feet.
Yes, sir. I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't aware
In
of
order
that.
in order for a room to be constructed on the inside that would use the window well as egress.
Yes. I wasn't aware of the size of the window wasn't up to the requirement.
May I ask a follow-up question of the staff? That is only if people are sleeping on that floor.
I can't speak towards the building code, but if you have a bedroom, they usually say they require the 3x3 interior clearance. So.
Well, let me,
And
yeah, if
I think I
it's
get what you're saying,
designated
yeah.
as a bedroom. But
Exactly.
will they deny or require the window well to be bigger, absent any evidence that there's going to be a...
And unfortunately, I can't answer that question for you because it's a building code issue.
Right.
And I would say no, probably. That's the way to get around it.
I don't know if that's the case either, though. Okay, well, thank you. Staff's recommending denial.
Mr. Chair, may I ask, do you,
Yes, sir.
and I'm thinking that maybe more time is needed because Mr. Noxon said that he had some contact with the contractor, or tried to have contact with him, but it failed. This may be the kind of case that would benefit by more communication with the contractor, and perhaps revision in the plans. Of course, that might end up necessitating a new notice.
Either that, or if you decide to go forward with denial of that, he just can't have a bedroom anytime soon. So if he decides to come back and get a bedroom and the inspections department requires him to have the window well, he's back in front of you, but at least that's a $300 application, not a $2,800 building error application.
Okay.
I have a question about the window well. If I move the window well to the front of the house, would it be a problem? To the front of Roosevelt?
Could ask staff to comment on that.
The issue with what the BZA sees right now, just as we discussed this before on your last application, what they see tonight and approve is what you have to build. And so if you don't have plans reflecting what you're proposing, they cannot approve that, unfortunately. Unless your architect is able to draw that up in the next hour and we defer you till the end of the meeting. We have done that before.
You mean the plat? You mean the plat?
And that would have to be by right as well. You would have to meet the 21 feet on the front.
Yes.
Which I think
yes.
you can do.
Yeah, he could.
Yes. So if I have the window well by right, 21 feet to the Roosevelt, do I have to go back to the board zoning to apply again?
You would have to, yes.
But, Mr. Chairman, it seems to me that the staff recommendations on the window walls and the air conditioning units, if denied under this application, he has by right alternatives. So that doesn't seem to be terribly punitive. And therefore, I would like to move the staff recommendation.
Is there a second?
Do you need me to read the whole thing? Want me to read the whole thing?
I just wanted to ask the question about, so if he does come back with the by right option on the Roosevelt Street setback, and he can meet the setback, our issue is that it's not part of the plan you all approved, unless you're willing to okay that to happen.
Ms. Freshman, and let me just say, I heard Mr. Melnick as a second. Ms. Freshman made the motion. If you all wanted to amend your motion to take care of by right window wells and other locations, or not?
I don't know how to do that. I confess.
While
Question.
while Ms. Freshman is rethinking her motion, if it's a by right window well, does it have to be reflected on these plans?
I believe that was the point that Mr. Knoxon was making
Regardless-
unless we did something in the motion and what we approved.
Exactly.
And we can verbally approve it without having the drawings revised?
Good.
My opinion, I've always thought so. I've heard differences of opinion on that. I'd ask Mr. Smith in terms of his experience
Well, I
on this
think the
board.
record would reflect, and the minutes would reflect, I think that would be probably sufficient.
That's my opinion
Yeah.
as well.
If I say I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution denying the use permit for the 2 egress window wells and the 2 air conditioning units, and insert something, what is that something that passes the sniff test?
And permit,
What you would say is you would permit the egress window well to be moved onto the North Roosevelt Street frontage.
Permitting the egress window wells moved to the front of and the 2 air conditioning units moved to the rear?
I don't think well,
We're not going to say that. Okay,
conditioning units, we treat that separate from the house, so we don't,
okay.
don't worry about that part.
Just make a point here. I don't see if he can put the air conditioning units on the rear by right without us saying that's where they go, then why can't he put the window wells on the front as a matter of right without us having to say so? I mean,
It's a good point.
Seems inconsistent.
We have had the issues, and we brought it up to you all as a board. Now, this is a different board 2-3 years ago when Conchita was the chair. She and the other board members made it very clear that they did not want to grant staff the authority to make changes to something that was approved by the BZA.
okay. Then I think Ms. Freshman's it's my suggestion that you don't address the air conditioning units, but that you do say that window wells may be permitted within this approval if they are able to be done as a matter of right on the front facing whatever street,
Okay, I'm going to start again.
Roosevelt Street.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution denying the use permit for 2 egress window wells and 2 air conditioning units. Do I say that we providing that 2 egress window wells may be built as a matter of right on the front facade. Okay.
Not built as a matter of right, but
If they can be approved as a matter of right.
Yes, under the
Okay.
zoning.
Okay. But granting the use permit V-10920-14-UP2 for a setback of 7.2 feet to the wall of the home from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required, 21.3 feet to the cantilevered bays, and 17.8 feet to the eave, and 20.6 feet to the wall of the home from the North Roosevelt Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required, and 14.3 feet to the eave and 15.4 feet to the wall of the home from the 11th Street North right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution.
Second.
The motion has been made by Ms. Freshman and seconded by Mr. Smith. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you.
Copy of this.
Okay, the next case is V-10925-14-UP-2. This is a use permit amendment request by Alexander and Danielle Sheffer to permit a setback of 3.7 feet to the eave and 4.3 feet to the wall from the left side property line instead of 8 feet as required. Also, an aggregate side yard of 13.9 feet instead of 18 feet is required. This is to maintain a recently constructed left side screen porch that was approved by a previous use permit at its current location. This is in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 4311 16th Street North.
Thank you, Mr. Knoxon. Do we have any questions of staff by the board? No, hearing none. Do we have an applicant to speak before us? Please come forward, sir.
Hi, I'm Alex Sheffer. I'm the homeowner. I previously got approval from this organization to put up the screen porch on the back of my house, and I got an approval for 4.5 feet previously. So we built that porch, and when the eaves were done, I was very surprised to find that the wall was actually at the 4.3 foot mark instead of 4.5. After several surveys to figure out the discrepancy, we discovered that we based the distance off the property line on a survey which turned out to be incorrect. The original survey that we used was the one that was on file at the zoning office and was done prior to my purchase of the house. We subsequently had to get another survey done for lot coverage, which is why there's a second surveyor involved. The assumption we made originally was that we were 3.9 feet off the property line and that the back of the house was parallel to the property line. We found out that we were only 3.8 feet to the property line and that the back of the house is not completely parallel. And I can show you all that in surveys if you're interested, but I just want to make a couple of quick points before we get to there. I'm just asking for 0.2 feet more. The reasons for placing the porch where we did are that we wanted to save a large tree, we wanted the eaves at the back of the house to line up with those at the front, and we wanted to save a window on the back of the house and make it all look nice. The current structure achieves all of those goals. If you accept the staff recommendation, those goals will again be in jeopardy because I'll have to figure out a way to move this without jeopardizing that tree, amongst the other goals. I'd also like to point out that the old structure that I removed, there was a structure that we replaced with this structure, and the old structure that had been there for many years, built by a prior owner, was actually touching the property line. So in this photo right there, it went all the way to the fence. So where there was previously 0 feet of setback, there's now over 4 feet of access. So we've made a big improvement. Also, my house was built in 1939, and the front of it is only 3.8 feet from the left side property line, as we now know. The porch that I've built is actually, the wall of it is 6 inches farther inside the property line than where my house was originally built and still stands. So the new porch is completely hidden behind the front of the house. Also, my lot is 10 feet narrower than the required minimum lot size of Zone R6, so I don't have a huge amount of space to work with. Also, several of my neighbors have had BZA requests approved that are the same distance or closer to the property line than what I'm requesting. Also, I've gotten support from both of the side neighbors still. They've renewed their support both originally and, they've renewed it for this second request. I feel like I've done everything in my power to follow the process, and this additional request is just an unfortunate situation. I apologize for having to make a second visit through here, and I hope you understand that there's extenuating circumstances, and you realize, or you agree that 0.2 feet more is completely reasonable. If you'd like to see the surveys, the discrepancies between them, I'm happy to walk you through them. It's your choice. Otherwise, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Does the board have any questions of this applicant? Ms. Malice?
I have a question of staff,
Staff?
maybe the applicant.
If you just sit
Sure.
close
Sure.
for us, and we might bring you back up.
Who's responsible for the accuracy of the survey?
That's the surveyor. They're licensed and registered as surveyors, kind of like architects are. Really, whatever they do, they stamp and seal it on their survey, and that's certifying that it's correct. And if they're wrong, it could be their license.
So the survey that was on file was incorrect?
We're not sure if that's the case. We've noticed over the years that different surveyors will give you different numbers, and one may be using different technology. We've seen people who still draw surveys by hand. So the technology's changed over the years. Even within the last 5 to 10 years, it's changed. So we see these differences. We've seen it multiple times when one surveyor shows something and then another shows something different. So
What was the date of the survey the applicant relied on?
I cannot remember. I think it was 2011. It wasn't
10, I think.
10. It was pretty recent.
It wasn't a very old one.
No.
As a matter of policy, how do you advise an applicant relative to survey accuracy? I mean, do you advise them that they're responsible for making sure that that survey, I mean, how does staff protect the county's interest in this case?
We have certain requirements such as the wall check or final survey. We don't really go into it with, we can't make recommendations on who you should hire as a surveyor. We don't keep a list around of any local companies, but really it's on the owner to get a surveyor and for the surveyor to stamp and seal it and certify that it's correct.
So again, my question has to do with protecting the county's interest or the community's interest when a survey is wrong and somebody has relied upon it, and now we're asked to create a situation that is less desirable. How do we sort of spread that responsibility?
Unfortunately, all we can do is rely on the survey that's provided and the fact that they're stamping and certifying that it's correct. We rely on that. They're professionals in their field just like we are in our field.
If I may, we see these relatively often. It's the difference between before construction and after construction, and quite often they're this de minimis or even more de minimis. This is 2.5 inches. I think we have some on this agenda that are even less than that. And so what we have heard in testimony over the years is that the equipment for surveys has changed. And even though this one was 2011, I'm not sure that if you did one before, like May, and then your construction was done in September, that something about especially in the case of an inch or two, something about the width of a board or just standard construction techniques without violating any of our other rules would do it. Would cause the problem. It comes down to we're granting, when we grant a use permit modification of the requirement, that the courts have held and others, that if we say that it's supposed to be a side yard of 7.5 feet, it has to be 7.5 feet exactly, and that the zoning administrator and nobody else has the authority to give the inch or two. In my opinion, I think that's unfortunate, because clearly who could tell the difference? So we get these somewhat regularly, and it does rely. We do have to take, in my experience, we do have to take whatever a certified surveyor gives us. The state requires that, and so that's my thoughts on those. Mr. Malnick.
Can I make a motion?
Absolutely. If the rest of the board has no more questions.
Okay.
I have no speaker slips, so.
You have none? Okay. So I'd like to move that the Board of Zoning Appeals, in case V 1092514 UP2, adopt the attached resolution approving, as advertised, the application.
Second. It's been moved by Mr. Melnick, seconded by Mr. Smith. Do we have any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Shepard.
Thank you.
Next case, please.
Next case is another similar situation. This is V-10868-13-UP-2. This is also a use permit amendment request by Alexander Prokopis to permit a setback of 1.7 feet between eaves and 3.5 feet between the walls of an existing detached garage and a new 2-story rear addition and a setback of 1.1 feet between the eaves and 3.4 feet between the walls of an existing detached garage and the base of a new rear porch instead of 8 feet as required. This is to maintain a new 2-story rear addition and a new rear porch with steps approved by a previous use permit. This is in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 6022 26th Street North.
Good evening. I'm sorry.
Let's wait for questions. Does the board have any questions for the staff before we go to the applicant? Hearing none. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Alexander Prokopis. I'm the homeowner. I do have some letters of support here.
Could you bring them up and hand it to one of us? Are they multiple copies? Okay. Okay, thank you.
So, as he had stated, Mr. Noxon had stated earlier, we had been approved for different dimensions. We come back because upon completion of the project, we had a wall check done and discovered that the house was closer than was called out in the original use permit request. I've gone back and checked the dimensions of the addition that were done, and they were done to the specification. So then we checked the survey, and it turns out that the survey showing the distance between the original house, main house, and the existing garage was not accurate by a few inches. And so that's why we're here.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for this applicant? I do have a speaker, but I believe it's part of your team.
Yes, she's my architect. Okay. I do have one more comment. We did on the right side of the house leave a lot of space between the property line and the house. So there's actually more space than there used to be. We got rid of fences and stuff so that there's emergency egress from that side of the house, more than 8 feet.
Thank you. So does Ms. Elliott want to speak, or just you want to answer questions for us, or how do you want to do that?
I may ultimately have some questions of you, but I would like to speak in terms of the situation Mr. Prokopis is in now. It was a faulty survey. The builder did everything that he should have done to have it come out according to the original variance. If he has to do it now, specifically now that the project is built, the only way I can see to make it work is to physically cut off a corner of a perfectly good brick garage. I think my question is, besides wanting to reiterate the enormous amount of room there is for emergency egress or access, I was a bit surprised to find the staff against this when I had gone to zoning specifically to talk to them about how we solve this particular problem. But in any way, they're saying staff typically does not support a reduction of more than half. And in speaking with the fellows from zoning, I told them the numbers. They could have said this to us somewhere along the way. That said, we're just trying to solve his problem now. And the only logical solution, rather than have him tear down his addition, is to shave off a foot of his garage, which, as an architect, seems rather impractical, given that the only real thing that they're saying here is that it is because of the emergency access that they will not go below 4 feet. We certainly have the room to have that covered, so I very respectfully ask the board to consider perhaps looking into this and not necessarily going with the staff review. Thank you.
If I may say, we don't automatically take the staff's recommendation.
Well, I know that, but I thought I'd put it on record and be exact.
Certainly. I have a question for you. You gave us your address, but not the town.
Hillsborough, Virginia. It's out near Leesburg.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
May I inquire as to the date of the survey that you relied on?
The original survey was done before we started work in around 2012. And the only reason we didn't have him come back is that Mr. Prokopis was not too fond of the fellow, and he went and didn't particularly like anything about his working methods, so decided to get another one without either one of us realizing that there could be that much variation in measurement. And there is no way we could have complied at all given the actual location once we found out that his original survey was incorrect.
Mr. Melnick?
I have a question of staff.
Certainly.
Okay. So I have a question of staff. Is there, in this particular case, I noticed that as far as emergency access, it looks like there would definitely be access to the building around to the right of the house. And granted, it's very narrow. And I think the way it was originally approved would be pretty narrow. But what I'm wondering is, in reference to the space between the garage and the house, are you aware of any minimum that, like, the fire marshal recommends for this sort of thing? Have they weighed in at all?
We're not sure about that. I can't speak to the fire code on that.
Okay.
Isn't there, these are building permits approved by Inspection Services Division, which covers that part of it. So materials in the building can deal with that, and unless the Inspection Services Division has cited this as being now a foot closer, not meeting code, that would be I would think they would have already been informed of that, but I don't know.
Well, I believe our setback was based on that. We used to have the 15 feet, then it was reduced to 8. Now with fireproofing in the walls and things, the technology's better these days. But yes, it's true that the building code or fire code could require more from them as far as insulation and fireproofing of the two walls.
But let me ask a question then of the applicant. Have you received finals from Inspection Services Division for everything except
The only thing we need is the sign off of this wall check.
Well, we do have to do the finals.
Oh, okay.
We haven't done the finals yet. Well, I'm sorry. For the record, we haven't done the finals yet.
Okay. Now, it's my understanding from my professional experience and that's an understanding and not a professional opinion, that walls can be, that things can be done whereby construction abuts construction. Now, there's hardening, you can't have windows or anything, and that would be, that was why I was asking, has everything been signed off on except this placement? And I would think that the placement is under the zoning ordinance, and that's all the authority that we have.
Right.
So we can give that, and then you get in trouble with Inspection Services Division, that building code, that's a whole separate can of worms. But I sort of imagine you would have heard about that already, but I can't say that you would have. Thank you. Do we have any more questions? I do not have any other speakers than the applicant and the applicant's architect. Any comments or questions from the board? Do I have a motion? Mr. Melnick.
Okay. For application V1086813 UP2, I make a motion that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving the application as advertised.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Melnick, seconded by Ms. Freshman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm starting to feel as if there's a trend here when it comes to surveys, even surveys within the last couple of years. And I'm not sure under whose bailiwick it falls, but it seems like this is an issue that, probably needs someone's attention in order perhaps to just reduce the burden on various applicants who, through no fault of their own, appear to have been given false information. particularly if it turns out that the same one or two surveyors are the culprits.
Thank you for your comment.
Mr.
Ms. Mouse?
I'd like to support what Ms. Freshman said, because I think that my concern is that the community may suffer in the end when we find that the surveys are off and therefore the setbacks are even smaller than what would be appropriate. And further, I wonder to what extent they become precedential, you know, that these decisions that were made to correct errors in the future are relied on for other decisions.
Thank you. Mr. Melvin?
Is there a mechanism in place when there's an error like this to bring it to the attention of the licensing authorities of the surveyor? You know, just to create an incentive?
That's really on the owner. I mean, the owner can go after them and say, hey, you messed up. We want our money back, or we want you to correct it, pay to correct it. But we have no authority there.
Okay.
If I may comment, I think that this, I've seen it in this jurisdiction and others, and it's quite common for surveys to be different. And it's always been in my mind that zoning ordinances could be adjusted to give some authority for some adjustment by the administrator. However, that of course has to be a zoning ordinance amendment. It has to be supported by the staff. Staffs don't always want that authority, and then I suppose in terms of affecting another industry, another certifying authority like surveys, you know, some appeal by the local jurisdiction to have those things looked into could be possible. But this is where we are. We have several. I was surprised how many we had on this agenda, but I think we usually have at least one on every agenda. It's always made me sort of think I don't want to ever try to add to my non-conforming house. And with some recent decisions we've had, I want to do it even less. In a jurisdiction like Arlington, where pretty much anything built before 1950 is non-conforming, and you have to come before this board in order to maintain existing walls even these days, that's why we have the use permit system rather than trying to meet the variance system, or to have the use permit system with the Board of Zoning Appeals rather than having all these kinds of cases go to the county board, who's the only other authority that would be able to grant these things. So I think if that's all, then yes, let's move on to the next case, please.
This is V-10883-14-UP-1. This is a use permit amendment request by Bill McGlone and Lisa Ruskowski to permit a setback of 4.9 feet to the porch eave and 5 feet to the wall of the addition from the left side property line instead of 11.9 feet as required. Then also an aggregate side yard of 16.8 feet instead of 24 feet as required. It's for a new one-story basement addition below an existing screen porch approved by a previous use permit. This is in the R10 zoning district on the premises known as 4521 32nd Road North.
Any questions of staff before we hear from the applicant? If not, could we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening. I'm Greg Wiedemann. I'm the architect for Bill McGlone and Lisa Ruskowski. I don't have a lot to say, just to remind the board that we're speaking here of a existing porch on the west side of this residence that was granted a variance in 1999 and was built in accordance to that variance 5 feet from the western property line. That variance depicted a unconditioned storage room below the screen porch, which has been used for storage. We're here today in order to convert that space into usable space. The exterior appearance after this work is done is the same as it currently is. There's no increase in the footprint. The only difference is the change in use from an unconditioned storage room into a usable room below the existing porch. And I'm here to answer questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have a question for Mr. Wiedemann? I have one. Actually, not for you, sir, but for the staff. So this request comes to us because of the change of use of the space? Mr. Jackson?
That as well as exactly amending previous variances and use permits.
Okay, so it was, I'm trying to understand why there's a difference between storage use and
So,
May I ask a question?
oh, yes.
I mean, did the previous approvals state that this was storage space?
It just stated that there was a porch.
That there was no space?
It didn't say, it didn't mention anything about the space below. From the drawings, it was assumed that it was empty underneath, just like a typical porch, and then they had the lattice around it to kind of enclose it.
Well, then that leads me to a question. The lattice around it, this is enclosed with walls, isn't it? And has been?
We wouldn't consider that. If it's a screen or mesh, it doesn't meet the definition of enclosed.
So now it's going to be enclosed with walls?
Correct.
Oh, well then I was missing that point. Thank you, thank you. Does the board have questions of the applicant before we move to speakers? All right, well then, thank you, sir. Stay close by. I'm going to call the speakers. Nicholas Fide or Fide?
Not the right.
Pardon?
It's not the right case.
Oh, I am so sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Clayton Dupree.
Good evening. My name is Clayton Depew. My wife and I are the owners of the property directly to the west of this house. And I'm here to offer that we're in complete agreement. We think it will enhance, certainly will not deter anything for our house or their house or the neighborhood. In fact, we have a joint plan or planning a joint effort to put trees and shrubbery and plants in this common ground area between the two houses.
Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. All right, the case, that's the completion of the speakers. Cases with the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smith.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting use permit B-10883-14-UP3, subject to the conditions that are listed in the staff's report.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Malice. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next case, please.
Okay, the next case is V-10974-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Elaine Anderson to permit a setback of 1.8 feet to the eave and 3.8 feet to the porch space from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required. It's for a new rear porch. This is in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 2420 North Custis Road.
Could we please hear from the applicant?
Good evening. I'm Elaine Anderson. I'm the owner of 2420 Custis Road. I'm here to ask for a use permit for a small porch on the back of the house. The current setback of the house does encroach on the current setback limits. It's 3.8 feet from the lot line. And the proposed porch is meant to actually line up with the base to line up with the current house and the eaves to line up with the current eaves, both on the side lot and the back of the house. A prior variance had been granted for an extremely similar project several years ago. However, the construction wasn't completed. I'm requesting the size of the porch as it is to enable 2 chairs to fit on the porch.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the applicant at this point?
Mr. Chairman? The staff report notes that there are no signatures from your neighbors.
Oh,
Have
I
you-
apologize. I do have.
Okay.
Thank you.
This letter is from the neighbor immediately to the left of the house who would look onto the porch, and she does support.
Does any board members have questions of this applicant or of the staff?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smith?
in 2006, it was 1.9 feet. This year, 1.8. Why the tenth of an inch difference?
I'm the next owner, and so I drew up different plans with a different architect.
It's
Because, I
probably,
mean, it's still essentially running in the same place.
Yes.
this is probably a survey difference too. This is a 2014 survey.
Good point.
The earth adjusted. The earthquake did it.
Speakers?
I swear by that.
Speakers?
This much. My house shook that, moved that much.
Other speakers? Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Freshman?
I move the zoning appeals adopt the alternative resolution approval as advertised for the B-10974-15-UP1, subject to conditions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Melnick. Any comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your next case is V-10975-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Thomas and Lan Hogue to permit a setback of 4.5 feet to the eave and 5.8 feet to the porch base from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new rear screen porch. This is in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 4819 Washington Boulevard.
Good. Any questions for staff before we move to the applicant? If not, is the applicant present? Like to come forward, please?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Lon Hogue, and I'm the owner, or one of the owners of the residence at 4819 Washington Boulevard. And I will take questions, I guess, unless you want me to explain what we're asking
Let me just ask you, you agree
All right.
that you're proposing to put a porch directly over the deck that we see there now?
Yes.
The basement under, with no extension over in any direction?
No, there's no extension. There's currently a garage under that patio, so we're putting an unenclosed screen porch over the existing patio. That's in alignment with the existing building as it was built in 1931.
The members of the board have any questions for the applicant or the staff at this point?
Motion?
Yes, ma'am.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving the use permit V-10975-15-UP1, subject to conditions.
Is there a second?
Second. Great.
Moved by Ms.
Thank you.
Freshman, seconded by Ms. Malice. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Our next case tonight is V-10976-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Nicholas and Elaine Fide to permit a setback of 13.8 feet to the eave and 14.8 feet to the porch base from the rear property line instead of 25 feet as required. This is for the construction of a new rear screen porch. This is in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 2021 North Roosevelt Street.
Any questions of staff before we move to the applicant? Could the applicant please come forward and tell us about your request?
Hi. Nicholas Fide, owner of 2021 Roosevelt Street, looking to build a 17 by 13 screened-in porch. One area I wanted to point out that goes against what the staff is recommending tonight is that in the original as advertised request, the southeast corner of the porch, when finished, that point compared to the rear neighbor, as this is a pipe stem situation, that's a great picture of it, but that point, that southwest point, their rear yard on the side of their house is completely open all the way to the rear of their yard. So the actual distance between the southeast corner of my screened-in porch to any other structure is pretty far away. And so the difference in what we're, versus what staff has recommended versus what as advertised is, it is for the base, it's like 0.2, if I'm doing the math right, 14.8 versus 15. And on the eve, I'm asking for 13.8, and staff is recommending 14.5. I don't know where you're leaning on this, but if you were to go with the staff's request versus mine, I would just say that we would request that the eave be bigger than just a half a foot, as this is a screened-in porch. And when wind blows, rain, the eaves protect the interior of the screened-in porch. And we would just like you to consider that, that's all. Thank you.
Questions from Ms. Mouse?
To staff.
Oh, yes, she'd like this. You can sit down right up front, and we'll call you back. Ms. Malice, go ahead.
I'd like clarification on whether the dimensions of the eave are relevant to our discussion.
It would be. I mean, the eave is just, usually they're 6 inches to a foot. Sometimes you see they're a little longer. It's not really the eave that we have as much of a problem with. It's just the wall of the screen porch being closer. And generally, staff recommends up to 15 feet from a rear property line for structures such as this. It's one story. It's open. It's not a massive structure. It's not tall. So we see 15 feet being pretty fair, especially when you have a pipe stem situation. Somebody directly behind you, they're looking at your backyard.
And in this case, is the placement of the neighbors' buildings relevant?
I wouldn't say so. They're more than 25 feet from that property line, so they're further back.
So our job is to measure from the property line, not from an adjoining building.
Correct.
If I may add on this point, staff has sort of regular distances that they recommend the reduction of a rear yard, any of them, so a side yard, they'll recommend down to 5 feet usually, and it's not always the case, but as a general rule of thumb, rear yards to 15, and this board might find 15 not adequate, or might find another couple feet down to 13 or something to be. So our record is different from what they recommend, but they sort of have standards that they apply. The other thing I'd say about there's some relevance to where the existing house is, but the existing house can, on another lot, but the existing house could possibly come and request for something, or they have to meet 25 feet unless they come to the board, where we take into consideration how far they are from their property lines. That's just a comment. Thank you.
Can I ask one more question?
The applicant would like to.
Thank you. Just to make a point that we're planning to put trees all along our property along the rear fence, which will be very tall trees, Thuya green giants, to help actually add privacy for us, and in turn actually adds privacy for that neighbor that's behind us. So just to add that for consideration. Thanks.
Just a quick question to you or to staff. Do we have a letter of support from that neighbor?
Yeah, we do.
We do.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sure I could figure it out if I did.
On the way back.
Yeah.
2017.
Was without looking. All right, Mr. Melnick.
All right, so in case V1097615 UP1, I'd like to move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached alternative resolution giving approval as advertised for this application for a use permit.
Is there a
And,
second? Sorry, we're done.
yeah, I'm finished.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Mr. Melnick, second by Ms. Freshman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0. Thanks, sir.
Okay, our next case is V-10977-15-VA-1. This is a variance request by the County Board of Arlington to permit a fence with pilasters as well as a wall above the maximum permitted height of 7 feet, and also to permit a fence with pilasters and a wall exceeding 4 feet in height within the setbacks from the Jefferson Davis Highway South East Street and 32nd Street South rights of way, and to permit a metal picket fence instead of a painted board fence as required. This is for the construction of a new fence with pilasters and enclosure wall. This is in the CM zoning district, premises known as 3175 and 3201 South East Street. Actually, to make a correction, this is now in the M1 district because it was recently rezoned after we had advertised.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smith.
I think I have to make a disclosure. I'm an attorney and I represent the drivers at the Arlington Rapid Transit bus system. They're not employed by Fairfax County. They're employed by a subcontractor. So I don't think there's a conflict. However, I wanted to make that disclosure. My good friend Mr. Yaffe here representing the agency, I did want to put that on the record.
They're also not employed by Arlington County.
That is exactly right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice.
I'll make a brief other disclosure. I have heard this project as a planning commissioner, and I believe I moved to approve the project. I don't remember what the nature of the fence was, but I have taken a previous action on that. I don't know if that affects my status here.
Thank you very much for those disclosures. Mr. Melnick has a question for staff before we call.
Okay. Yeah, I see on your recommendation approving a variance for 8-foot tall fences and walls. And what I was wondering is the lights that are attached, is that considered a part of the wall? I mean, is this 8-foot recommendation, does that include the lights as shown?
No, the lights are actually allowed as a projection above the minimum height requirements in the zoning ordinance, so those don't even come into play with this.
Okay. Thank you.
And if I may add on to this, the pillars that are shown at 9-8, they're within the scope of this, or how?
That's correct, exactly. What you see is we have two different renderings. I suggest looking at the pretty colored picture. Kind of simplifies it a little more. So you have the mesh fence, and then the pilasters are a little taller. So you've got the 9'8" and then the 7'9" for the actual fencing portion.
Well, to answer a question for me, how are the pilasters, I think they're called here, the pylons that hold the fence, how are they not part of the fence?
They are.
What am I missing in terms of what's been advertised? It seems to me that with pilasters wall above maximum prohibit. Okay. So it's open. It's not. It's
exactly
just a use permit above to some number that we set with the whatever it is we approve.
Exactly. Usually when we have these fence cases, if it's above 7 feet, usually we don't have a height included because it's over the height limit. It's not the same as the setbacks we do with a use permit.
I think that's a good clarification for the record, whereas everything else we're doing specifies the dimensions we're going to. In this case, we will be referencing the materials we've been given and approving. Thank you very much. Mr. Melnick?
So what you're saying with your recommendation of 8 feet, that includes the pilasters? these wall spaces?
Correct.
Okay.
So these pilasters have to be decreased?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's where I was getting confused. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm getting confused now too.
Yeah.
Are we approving these drawings here or renderings, or do we have any dimensioned drawings that we're recommending tonight?
They have provided dimension drawings, yet if you choose the staff recommendation, it would be for an 8-foot fence at the highest point, as opposed to what they have shown.
And they've shown.
That's right.
10, 11 feet.
So your recommendation is something less than what they've requested?
Correct. To be lower.
Yeah.
And generally, when we do fence or wall applications, we usually don't even have drawings, because we don't hold people to a design for a fence unless it's a site plan project where it says you must have board on board painted white fence, or whatever the specification is. We don't have any requirements of such.
And so staff's view that the applicant's request is not appropriate is because?
I have stated in the report, let me see if I can find it for you real quick.
Sorry.
There are some guidelines by the TSA and some of the other federal agencies that talk about, as a guideline, not a requirement, it's a guideline, that they specify 8 feet in height at the max. Now, there may be requirements in the future. I've heard in the next year or so they're going to require a certain size fence or wall, but that's, hasn't come through yet.
So what is staff's objection to going taller in this instance?
Our recommendation is to keep it at 8 feet, which is consistent with those TSA guidelines.
But less than what the applicant is asking for?
Correct.
So what is your issue with the applicant's proposal?
Just the overall height of it.
But what is the detriment to their proposal?
The issue with the granting of a variance is they have a strict standard of proving hardship. So our issue is with what hardship is there requiring you to have such a tall fence when it can be brought down. And since this property's been rezoned to M1 versus the CM that part of it used to be, there is no longer a requirement for this use to have a fence. So really, they don't even need a fence.
I think we need to hear from the applicant, because I would, certainly if this is a storage facility area, a fence seems appropriate.
That's our next course of business. And if the board has no more questions for staff at this time, let's go ahead and hear from the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Rami Natur. I work for Arlington County Facility Design and Construction. The concerns on the height. This facility is going to have compressed natural gas. It's going to have tanks of gas that is exposed to the public. So anybody that decides to put a bag with a bomb, this will end up the whole area. So I think the height is very important for this project to create security for the whole facility. We have a gas station, which is CNG, not fuel, CNG, it's all gas. We have an area where we're gonna have compressed natural gas and open pipe from Washington Gas that is exposed at full time if we don't have that fence. That area, by code, by NFPA, requires us to have a 2 hours rated wall to have that, to conceal that space. And it has to also be at 14 feet to close, to hide all the tanks that are exposed. And we show these in the drawings. So that's why we're asking for this height. We're only increasing the height where the CNG compressors are, and the remaining, everything goes at 8 foot. And 8 foot is just for security. The adjacent neighbor next to us and facing us, which is the water pollution plant, they have the exact same fence. And Wamata, which is next to us, they have exactly the same fence. We're putting a decorative, approved by the Civic Association and everybody, that's what they wanted us to do. So by not having this fence at that height, I think will restrict safety for this facility. So.
Let me just point out that just because the staff recommends something to us isn't what we're necessarily going to do. And this is when the applicant makes the case to us for what they proposed and the record of what they've done with the neighborhood, with the county board and the planning commission and so forth. So this is good information for us to get from all of you. Do you have anything else to tell us about the request?
Just on the request, like for the request is for a setback also on the fence. And the reason we're asking for the setback to put it where we need to is just we're very limited with the area. We don't have a lot of lands in Arlington, and so having the fence move back into the property will not allow us to park enough buses. Basically, the north lot basically will be unusable. We cannot park any buses, and on the north lot, instead of parking 30 buses, we'll be down to 15 buses. So it will basically kill this project.
Let me ask you another question. You've had approvals with other bodies. The Planning Commission saw these plans with these fences.
County Board?
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And well, let me ask about the approval. The County Board was approving a rezoning of the property, correct? This other material as to what was going to be built was edifying to that, but not necessarily those things, were those things conditioned as, well, they couldn't be as part of the rezoning. If that's all that was a rezoning, then, but the neighborhood and the board and the planning commission have seen all these plans with these fences at these heights and so forth.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Melnick, did you have a question?
I know what you meant. These plans did not come to the Planning Commission
They did.
and to the County Board?
They did, yeah.
Yeah, I think they
Yes.
were, besides that there was a rezoning, but there was
exactly.
also a use permit.
There was a use permit. That was part of my question.
Yes.
Yeah, which I'd
So,
seen that.
how is it that we got into this conflict? If the county board adopted a use permit with these drawings, why did we get into a conflict here?
Well, the staff can answer, but I can answer that question. They don't have the authority to waive these fence heights.
Exactly.
The Board of Zoning Appeals does. It's not part of what the county board has the ability to modify.
I have a question.
Mr. Melnick.
Okay, in reference to the 14-foot wall, around the tanks, does that come? Are there any regulations, or forgive me if I missed it, but any regulations concerning that kind of requirement?
Yeah, basically, per NFPA, whenever you have anything that is explosive next to an adjacent property, you have to conceal that property with a 2-hour rated wall. And that's why we have it concealing, it's like three-sided wall, and it's open from one side, the side that's inside the property. So from the street level side, it's closed with that wall, and it's at 14 foot, and adjacent to Amada, we have it also at 14 foot high. And it's because of NFPA, the code-wise.
Okay, thanks.
Any other question of the applicant's representative at this point? I have a question for the staff. Do you have the exact wording of, you were quoting, was it Homeland, some federal agency? Do you have the exact
Yes, it's
wording?
in the report here. Find it for you real quick. Certainly.
CPTED.
Okay, this is from the Federal Transit Administration, and it talks about fences surrounding transit facilities. Fence height should be a minimum of 8 feet, 2.4 meters to deter unauthorized passage. This includes a fabric height of 7 feet, 2.1 meters, plus a barbed wire, razor wire outrigger extension of 1 feet, 0.304 meters. For more information, I've attached a link here. There's a long list of guidelines, so.
So you had said it was a maximum. It's actually a minimum.
Yes, I apologize. That does say it's a minimum.
That didn't sound right to me at the time, so that's why I asked you to read that. So we're dealing with the recommendation of TSA that you have that height of fence. This proposal is for more and includes consideration of gas facilities and other things other than just the parking of buses. Just add that to the mix. I don't have any speaker slips. Are there any more questions for the applicants or the staff? If not, do I have a motion?
You're requesting a motion?
Sure.
I want the first motion. I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the alternate resolution approved as requested.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Malice and seconded by Mr. Smith.
And Mr. Chairman, let me put on the record some hardships. The applicant has to comply with safety regulations promulgated by the federal government. In addition, the applicant has the storage of is responsible for storing a combustible material that you want to limit access to as much as possible. That's a unique condition. That's unlike the homeowners that come before us all the time. These conditions go with the land. In fact, in this case, that is what the purpose of the land is going to be used for. So that's I just wanted the record to reflect some of the conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any further comment? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It carries 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next case, please.
This is case number V-10978-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Zubin Kapoor and Ada Alkonen to permit a setback of 6 feet to the existing chimney and 6.8 feet to the wall of the existing home from the right side property line instead of 10 feet is required. Then also an aggregate side yard of 15 feet instead of 18 feet is required. This is to permit structural alterations to a non-conforming building. This is in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 113 North Oakland Street.
Any questions of staff before we go to the applicant? If not, did we hear from the applicant, please?
My name is Michael Wynn. I'm with the design build firm representing the owner.
Would you give us a speaker slip when we're done here? If you
Sure,
just want
I'd be
give it
happy to.
Ms. Thank you.
And I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
All right. I don't have any speaker slips for any other speakers. So discussions with the board.
May I ask the applicant if he was advised that signatures from the neighbors would be useful?
Yes, we were. The nature of this project is interior and therefore not affecting any neighbors, so we didn't feel that it was necessary.
I'd like to take the opportunity for staff to perhaps comment for us and clarify that now if an existing wall in a non-conforming structure is altered for whatever reason, it requires a use permit from the Board of Zoning Appeals. Is that correct?
That is correct. As you all know, the last go-around in December, we were requiring variances. That was not supported by the county attorneys, so we're back to use permits. And we also have a zoning ordinance amendment that's going up in another week in front of the county board to take care of some of these issues that keep coming up with these structural alterations, especially the ones like this situation where it's all interior to the home, nothing's being changed on the exterior. So some of the information I passed out to you tonight explains that amendment that's going forward. So right now we're doing the use permit until the approval is granted from the county board, if it is granted.
And what's the timing on that? Has this been to the Planning Commission already?
I'm not sure what the timing of it is right now. I cannot remember if it's going forward to Planning Commission yet or not.
That's all right. It's a zoning text amendment that those of us or any of us here in the community are interested in this, write to the county board or speak to the county board and Planning Commission about your opinion on an amendment to stop this from being a requirement for a use permit. Thank you.
May I ask, has this been a long-standing requirement?
This has probably been the zoning ordinance since back in 1950. The problem was it hadn't always been enforced properly. There were I would say not past zoning administrators, but past staff that would okay a building permit if a structure that was non-conforming, it was within a setback, but the work was being conducted in a part that doesn't touch the setback, so it wasn't really being enforced properly. And the zoning administrator said we need to relook at this, and then that's when some issues came up, and we had quite a few contractors and citizens contact the county board about it, and so there's an amendment going forward now.
Mr. Melnick?
I'd like to make a motion. All right. So I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving the use permit V1097815 UP1 with conditions.
It's been moved by Mr. Melnick, seconded by Ms. Freshman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Give us the speak slip, please. Next case.
Next case is V-10979-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Teresa and Chris Cupid to permit a setback of 3 feet to the eave and 3.1 feet to the wall of a new side sunroom addition from the right side property line instead of 10 feet as required, 16.8 feet to the eave and 17.1 feet to the porch base from the North Oakland Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required, and finally an aggregate side yard of 12.4 feet instead of 18 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new right side sunroom addition and a new front porch. This is in the R6 zoning district on premises known as 125 North Oakland Street.
Any questions for staff before we hear from the applicant? If not, could we hear from the applicant, please?
Yes, good evening. My name is Elizabeth Craver. I'm the architect on this project, and I'm here representing the owners, the Cupids. So I reviewed what staff is recommending, and I'm in agreement with their recommendation for the open front porch be approved. But I have some comments about their recommendations for the expansion of this existing side sun porch, that the side wall be set to 5 feet instead of what we're requesting. 3.1 feet, I think, is what we're requesting. And that has to do with the fact that the expansion is really just wanting to keep in line with that current side wall of the existing porch. And we took a very quick look at it today and what it would do to go with what staff was recommending, and the impact on the usable floor space is pretty significant. But in addition, from the exterior, what that look does to the roof line is pretty unappealing, whereas if we proceed with what we're requesting, the proposed plan keeps the look from the street virtually identical in terms of the shape of the roof and the consistent eave line at the street edge. It raises the ridge line slightly, but it keeps the configuration of the roof the same, where it's a center ridge sloping front to back. I would also note, I guess at this point, that all of the 5 neighbors, the 2 adjoining neighbors and the 3 directly across the street, they've all signed a petition-style letter of support that they are in complete agreement with what the Cupids are proposing to do for the porch. In fact, I think the 2 adjacent neighbors have a very similar configuration with their side porches that they reach towards the front of the house much closer than this existing condition does.
So let me ask you a question. It's going to, I think I'm going to be stating the obvious, but in sort of in layman's terms.
Sure.
You're proposing to expand this porch by bringing it straight forward, keeping the sideline of the existing porch, nothing to the rear, just onto the front.
Correct.
Pitch the roof in the same way it's pitched now.
Correct.
So you're expanding the nonconformity of the side yard, but not increasing it unless the line moves a little.
Yeah, and yes, sorry to interrupt. The phone call to the surveyor who did the survey helped clarify. He had shot those corners, but hadn't noted them on the plat, which is we went back and noted very specifically in a subsequent submittal to Mr. Noxon that showed, so the house is actually skewing away. The worst case scenario is that existing rear corner of the porch where the wall is at 3.1 feet, the eave is at 3 feet off the rear property line. And so if we maintain that line, we've noted it as being that same number, which would be a worst case scenario, but in fact it's probably going to be better by a few inches, 3 or 4 inches.
Okay, thank you very much. The members of the board have questions for the applicant at this point? With staff?
I guess just to clarify, so the main aim is to increase the area of the porch, usable porch space?
Yes, it does a couple of things for that. It increases the area by 43 point something square feet. But what it does is you can see that there's a window opening there at the front corner. So it allows for better circulation of the space. You can see it's a very long, narrow. The chimney encroaches into the room. I think it's a less than 7 foot width room at that point. So it just allows for some better flow and usage of the space.
So the window becomes a door?
Correct.
There are 2 doors to the porch?
Correct.
Thanks. Anybody else? Motion?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Melnick.
All right. So I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution giving approval as advertised in this case.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Melnick, seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And just to clarify, as advertised means what we've put forth in the plans.
There's,
Okay.
yeah, we should do that in the staff report. It's in the staff report. The alternate motion is in the staff report.
But we didn't do the alternate motion, did we?
Yes,
I'm
we did.
sorry.
As
Alternate
approval
resolution.
is advertised. So
The
it's-
3
it
feet
is
to the eve, 3.1 to the wall.
The plans that we've submitted, right. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Okay, the next case is V-10980-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Brian O'Neill and Amanda Bresner to permit a setback of 17.4 feet to the porch eave, 18.4 feet to the porch base, 23.3 feet to the bay window, 24.5 feet to the new 2.5 story addition from the 18th Street North right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required, 9.2 feet to the 2 egress window wells, 10.7 feet to the porch eave, 9.9 feet to the eave of the new half-story addition above the existing main building footprint, 11.1 feet to the porch base and bay window, 10.5 feet to the eave, and 11.6 feet to the 1-story rear bay, and finally 11.6 feet to the eave and 12.6 feet to the wall of the new 2.5 story rear addition from the North Oakland Street right-of-way, instead of 25 feet as required. And this is all for the construction of a new 2.5 story left side and rear addition, 1-story front and rear bay additions, a new front porch, a new 1.5-story addition above the existing main building footprint, and 2 right side egress window wells. This is in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 3803 18th Street North.
Hi, good evening. My name is Brian O'Neill. I'm the owner of the property. I have a brief prepared statement I'd like to first share with the board. 8 additional letters of support from neighbors and a written statement.
Thank you.
I'll be brief in my remarks, but I just wanted to thank the board for hearing our case. My wife Amanda and I bought our house 8 years ago, almost to the day, on Super Bowl Sunday. It's the first and only house we looked at in Arlington. We believe our use permit request presents the best aesthetic for the lot in our neighborhood. Second, we've obtained 10 letters of support from neighbors, and we have 2 neighbors here speaking on behalf in support. Third, we have a sidewalk and an expanded curb that's new, it's shown in that picture, which adds additional volume to the distance from the end of the property line to North Oakland Street. That varies from 5 feet to several feet. Feedback there. And we also believe that there's plenty of viewing area for any cars to go around the corner. So with that, I'll open to questions. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? All right, I have any questions for the staff before we go to the testimony? If not, I will call the speakers. You can have a seat.
Thank you.
First one is Brian O'Neill. That was you. Okay, sorry. Peter Mazarek.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Peter Mazurek. I am the homeowner of record of 3726 18th Street North, which is directly across 18th Street, kind of catty corner, across the T intersection between 18th and Oakland. As such, I have a unique perspective in that I get to view the elevations of both the front and the side of their house. So when my wife and I heard that Brian and Amanda were planning on making improvements, we were eager to see the plans. We've reviewed the plans, and in particular the elevations on the front and side, and we feel that it's very much in support of the neighborhood aesthetic and very faithful to the neighborhood and true to the style of the street. That's all I have. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
I have John Lenham, the architect.
Yes, hi. I am the architect for the project, and I'm here simply to answer questions if necessary. Thank you.
All right, if the board has any, we'll bring you back up. Thanks very much. Yuri Sagatov.
Good evening. I live just down the street from this property on 18th Street, the corner of Quincy and 18th. And I may look familiar. I'm also the owner of a local design build firm, so I'm very familiar with corner setbacks and the hardships associated with them. And I feel like the architect has done a very good job, and the owners have done a very good job of designing this project to try to be sensitive to the neighborhood, to the architecture, the setbacks. I also respect the staff's standard corner setback recommendation of 15 feet, and understand that that's their, that's one of the alternate resolutions is to push the setbacks back. I feel like the house is designed. It's kind of a technical nuance between what they're proposing and what the staff is recommending. And I feel like, as a neighbor, I personally think that there's really undue hardship with the corner lot situation, and that what they're proposing is not, should be approved as designed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I believe that's all. That concludes our public testimony. Do members of the board have any questions for the applicant, his architect, or the staff, or any of the speakers? Not, is the board ready for a motion?
Well, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to make a motion. I'm a little surprised that there wasn't much concern with the size of the addition. It's significant. Support of the neighbors means that's not a problem. Support of Mr. Sagatov is certainly helpful, even though it's not one of his kind of ultra-modern designs that we so often see and that I favor. But nevertheless, I'd like to move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the alternative resolution, which would grant the applicant what they've sought and what was advertised, so long as that they build that in accordance with the conditions that are also listed in the staff report.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Freshman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next case, please.
Next case is V-10981-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Diane and Hunt Allard to permit a setback of 7 feet to the new home from the left side property line instead of 8 feet as required. 17 feet to the 2 window wells, 17 feet to the eave, 18.4 feet to the new home from the North Kensington Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new 2-story home with 2 right-side window wells. This is in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 5701 22nd Street North.
Do we have any questions of staff before going to the applicant? If not, can we hear from the applicant, please? State your name.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Diane Allard. My husband, Hunt Allard, and I own the property in question here, 5701 North 22nd Street. My husband is a lifelong Arlington resident, and I have lived in Arlington for 27 years. We're currently on 40th Street. We purchased this home with the intent to build some place where we can age in place. So we are looking to build with universal design principles and also within the Arlington Green Home Choice Program. So we are looking to set an example that a well-constructed home can also use our resources in an efficient and wise way. This is a home that was built in 1949, so it is a non-conforming property, and the lot itself is non-conforming. It's less than 6,000 square feet. We are looking to build on the existing foundation, and we have 6 letters of support from the adjacent neighbors who have seen the plans that are in your possession today. And the drawings are for a Sears bungalow style home, which is very commonly found in the Leeway Overley area. One minor correction is that it's going to be 1.5 stories, not 2 full stories. And we plan to use deconstruction and other very resource-wise approaches in building this residence. We respectfully request that you adopt the alternative resolution approving of the draft plans that you have in your hands. If you have any questions.
Any questions of the applicant? Thank you. Stay close back.
Yes.
We'd have some. I have a question of staff. Who's chairman's privilege to ask first? Is her statement true that it's under the zoning ordinance? Is it 1.5 or 2?
It all depends on the measurement of that dormer on the top floor. We didn't have an exact measure of how wide it was, so we advertised it as the 2-story. In case that does happen, that it exceeds 50% of the width of that top roof.
Yes, that's, yes, certainly as a matter of, I guess what you call art, it's a 1.5-story house, but there are technicalities and dormers and stuff that make, that might be 2. I just wanted to make sure that if it was the other way around, we'd have an issue of advertisement, but since we've advertised 2, we can go to 1.5. If it would have been advertised 1.5 and it was actually 2, we couldn't have done that, so, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms.
A question of staff. So they're using the existing foundation,
Correct.
and the comment here in the staff report is that they could build this by right. But can you kind of walk us through?
Certainly. If you look in the ordinance provisions, let me see if I even included it on this case. I don't know if I included it in this case. Let me give you the passage from the ordinance and I'll let you know where that comes from. In your ordinance, it would be under Article 16 when it's talking about non-conforming one-family buildings. It's 16.2.2. It talks about provisions of this section shall not preclude construction within applicable height limits of an addition over an existing one-family dwelling encroaching on a required setback or yard, provided there is no more of an encroachment into the required setback or yard than that of the existing wall below it, and providing that it's not over an encroaching garage or encroaching porch. So if they kept the first floor walls, they could build a second-story addition above that by right as long as there was no eave that projected further into the setback than the wall below. So really, if they kept that first floor wall, they could do this by right.
And yet they chose not to. Could you address that?
Yes, we chose not to because the lower level is 7'3", which is non-conforming. It's 8-foot height in the ceilings in the lower level. So in order to raise that, we need to raise the floor joists on the main level. And in that case, we were advised, and plus for the energy efficiency targets that we're looking to make, we would like to start with the newer materials that are available today to make that possible.
So you're taking down the existing walls rather than building over the existing walls?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's the.
But what's causing and what is causing the nonconformity then?
The existing home is only 17 feet, and that's part of it. There are different projections into that. The wall of the building looks like it's about 18.4 feet from the North Kensington Street right-of-way. So you need 25 feet. So once they tear that wall down, their nonconformity goes away and they have to meet today's ordinance.
I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff or applicant? I don't have any other speakers. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Melnick.
So I'd like to move that in this case, the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached alternative resolution granting approval.
Second.
The motion has been made by Mr. Melnick, seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next case.
Okay, the next two are going to be withdrawals. We just kind of held off on those since we have the applicants here for another case that's going to be heard tonight, so we'll go with the two withdrawals first. This is V-10982-15-VA-1. This is a variance request by Justin Pierce to permit a new detached single-family home to be constructed on a lot does not meet the required width and area. This is, at the time of advertisement, we thought was a C1 district on the premises known as 2217 North Culpeper Street. The reason for withdrawal is we found out there was a mapping error that caused 3 properties to be included in a rezoning that happened across the street and not on those 3 properties. So we held up a building permit due to a mapping error, and all our systems are showing C1 when they should be R6.
So this is for the variance that is being withdrawn, and we will hear the use permit.
The use permit's to be withdrawn as well, but Mr. Pierce has a second property he's bringing forward to us tonight as well.
All right, but that has a different, I have 1092 VA and 1092 UP.
Correct. We're going to withdraw both of these.
Speaker slips for both of those withdrawals. I would ask Amanda McKay, do you need to speak on withdrawals? Okay, we can move through these without hearing the speakers. Thank you. It's noted. It'll be in the record.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Freshman.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution to withdraw the variance V-10982-15-VA1.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Malice. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Not no. Sorry, I don't oppose. There are no opposition. Motion carries. Thank you. Next case.
Okay, the next case is the associated use permit V-10982-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Justin Pierce to permit a setback of 13.8 feet to the stormwater planter boxes, 17 feet to the porch eave, 17.7 feet to the porch base, 22.7 feet to the second story bay, and 24 feet to the wall of the home from the North Culpeper Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new 2-story home with a front porch, second-story bay, and 2 front stormwater planter boxes. This is in now the R6 district, premises known as 2217 North Culpeper Street.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Freshman.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution to withdraw the use permit V-10982-15-UP1.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Malice. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, the next case is V-10983-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Justin Pierce as well. This is to permit a setback of 0.2 feet to the eave, 1.1 feet to the wall of the home, the front porch, and the rear 1-story addition from the left side property line. And this is instead of 10 feet as required, then also 0.4 feet to the porch eave, 0.5 feet to the porch base, 0.6 feet to the eave of the home, 1.3 feet to the existing home, and 1-story rear addition from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required, 8.8 feet to the porch eave, 9.5 feet to the porch base, 11.4 feet to the 1-story bay, 15.4 feet to the eave of the home, and 16.3 feet to the wall of the existing home from the 22nd Road North right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. Then also an aggregate side yard of 0.6 feet instead of 18 feet as required. It's to allow structural alterations to an existing non-conforming 2-story home with a wraparound front porch, a 1-story front bay, and a 1-story rear addition. It's in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 4911 22nd Road North.
Any questions of staff? Not, let's hear from the applicant.
Good evening. I'm Justin Pierce. I own the property in question. I appreciate the board's time. On this particular property, we're just asking to fix the inside of the home. We're not expanding the footprint at all. It's leaving everything in place. The unfortunate problem with this property is that I hired a contractor. He started the work before he applied for permits. I did include in the package to the board my emails and contract with him. This is not a case of starting the work and asking for permission later. I included the letters from the lawyer and all that stuff to the contractor showing he's been dismissed and that sort of thing. But we are just looking to fix the existing property, not add to it. Also, it wasn't mentioned there by Mr. Noxon, but in the bigger package, it says the foundation on the addition in the back, that work has not been done. The contractor slapped some concrete back there, but he really didn't fix that foundation. For the addition on the back, we are asking to put a proper foundation under that existing addition that's in the back. I don't believe the board has it, but I went to the Civic Association. They approved the project as well. I have copies of that if you'd like me to.
Any questions for the applicant? I do not have any speakers list. Do we have any questions for staff or a motion?
I was just trying to, we had a letter at our table from the Civic Association.
That's for 85.
That's a different?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Anybody feel ready to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman.
You bet. Oh.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting B-10983-15-UP1, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Freshman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Are none. Motion carries 5.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is the one, okay.
Next case, please.
Next case is V-100984-15-VA-3. This is a variance request by Dawood Mujadidi and Maria Maldonado to permit the construction of a new home on a lot that does not meet the width and area requirements. This is in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 2105 North Emerson Street.
Any questions of staff before we go to the applicant? If not, can we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening. My name's Nelson Maldonado. I'm representing the owners.
Could you fill out a speaker slip for us, please?
Yes.
Thank you. You can do it afterwards.
Okay. I'm a designer. I work for them, and I obtained the permits originally issued for this project. They had a permit to put a second addition above the existing structure. Unfortunately, while some of the work was being done, workers saw that one wall that could not be removed. They saw that that wall was in very bad conditions, and they proceeded to remove that wall. And that's the reason why we're here now with requesting a variance and a use permit.
Any questions of the applicant at this point? Any questions of the staff before I go to speakers? We have several. Okay, sir, if you have a seat up close front here, we might call you up again. I'm going to go on to the public speakers. The first one I have is Johnny Saunders, Jr.
Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
Well, let me briefly say I got 43 years construction, Class A contractor, Virginia State certified building inspector. My problem with this project is it's too close to the property line now, and it's in the fire separation zone. I have a problem if our first responders have to come to that location. They put a window well there on that left side, the north side. It's a trip hazard for paramedics or firefighters. Hopefully no one. There's been quite a number of properties that have greater width that have been denied variances. And this is, I think it's 40 inches from the property line, and they're talking about encroaching that 40 inches. They also put a door on the side, and there's not enough space on the side over there, so that was part of the stop work order too. Again, my main thing is that the project is safe in the future. I think if they reduced it, the width, it's 24 feet now, they reduced it by 2 feet, ideally 30 inches. If they put a window well over there, if you come out of that window, come out of the window well, you're right at a fence. There's nowhere to go. So they need to increase that depth when you come out of that window well. It has to be 3 feet wide, 3 feet deep. You come out of that window well that they're proposing, you're at a fence, nowhere to go. And so whoever is the occupant of that house, if there's a fire or any reason they have to come out of that basement and come out of that window well, they're trapped. So very simply, if they reduce the width of that building, I'm all for it.
Thank you, sir. Willie Jackson Baker.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Hi, my name is Willie Jackson Baker. I live at 2106 North Emerson Street, which is diagonally across from this house. We did meet with the owner or the architect and the realtor back in July, August, several of the neighbors, and we did have concern about how close the property is to, or how close the building would be to the adjacent properties. We understand that it does not conform to standards, but it is an old house that had been in the neighborhood, and we understood that if they built on the footprint, they could build legally, which they did not. So we are concerned about how close it is to some of the adjacent properties. We were concerned just about the design. And at that time, they did go back and do a redesign and came back to us, and, you know, we didn't quite agree with that. I understand that they have the support of 2 of the neighbors. Well, the support that they have from the 2 neighbors was for the original design. One neighbor gave support because she'd rather see something than this, which has been there for 22 months. The other neighbor who gave support at that time, who cannot be here because he had surgery today, gave support then, but has changed his opinion and also does not agree with what they would like to do. So I have letters from 4 neighbors, including myself, who would like to go on record saying that we do not agree with the design of the project, and that we feel that it could be a safety hazard for the neighborhood. Thank you. Thank you.
So much. Next speaker is Sean Martin.
I'm Sean Martin. I live at 2107 North Emerson Street. That's the adjacent lot on the north, on the left side on the drawings. And I oppose the variance as well as the alternate proposal. And just to give a little history, in the letter that's written, it talks about they're asking for the variance for the best interest of the nearby community or to contribute positively to the neighborhood or the character. The actions thus far have been anything but that. I can provide evidence of, for the past 3 years, of starting with May 2012, again in May 2013, and March 2014, we filed for code enforcement. That was the only times the grass had been cut. Those 3 times in the past 3 years. The walk's never been shoveled. So if they're saying they're trying to work in the best interest of the community, they have not done that thus far. And the hardship was created by the owner for tearing down the wall, and it was torn down, and while that was done, the power line that was adjacent to the back of the house was tied to my tree for the day or two that they rebuilt that back wall. So again, not in the spirit of what's best for the community when there's a power line tied to the neighbor's pine tree. So again, to state, I do not support the offering of the variance or the alternative proposal. One of the concerns I have is the 4 inches from my property line that they want to build the house in terms of safety for my family and for the neighbors, as well as on the south side, the footprint of the house seems to be just too much house for that area.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That's the last speaker. Does the board have any questions for applicant, staff, or speakers? Discussion. Well, I have a quick question. So I'll let you all go first. What could be, I mean, I could sit here, I could do the math, but if you were to build a house as a matter of right, how wide would it be?
I'll tell you real quick here. Get the plat out.
Could I answer your question, sir, if you allow me to?
Sure.
Yeah, approximately 16 feet.
16 feet, and that would provide a side yard of 10 and a side yard of 8? Okay. 16. That's small townhouse width.
So, just while he's looking that up, so may I just discuss, with a 10 and an 8, it's a 16, but if it was somewhat smaller, the building could be wider, but not as small as what is the existing condition.
That's correct, right? Is it?
By right, that's by right.
Correct.
If a variance was, or a use permit was
Approved, it could be wider.
it could be wider, and the variances could, and what would staff's initial variance or setback recommendation be?
We addressed that in the use permit. The next case, this is the variance just for being able to build a house on the lot. But as for the use permit, staff would be comfortable with no closer than 5 feet. This lot does have some hardship. I mean, it's one of the most narrow in the area, so I think granting a use permit of some sort would probably be a good thing to do in this case.
I see, so this one's the variance, the next one's the use permit.
Exactly.
Let me ask you a follow-up question then. If we denied the variance, can we approve the use permit at all?
No, the variance is for building a new home on a lot that doesn't conform, a lot that a piece of it was taken off the back after 1950, which made it more non-conforming.
So it's rendered unbuildable, no house at all?
Correct.
That was what I understood. Thank you. It's with the board.
So could you help with the alternatives here? It is unbuildable
That's correct.
Currently.
So
We can change that.
Unless a variance is granted.
Unless the variance is granted.
And Mr. Chair, if I might, if we were to grant a variance, we could also say what, that variance would only grant buildability.
Exactly. The use permit, you could deal with the setbacks.
Talk about the size of a structure that could be built there, regardless of what's already there.
And that goes to my question about what can be built as a matter of right.
Right.
So that if the board felt that the house requested under the use permit is not appropriate for this lot in granting narrower side yards, right? You know, is there a house, or what would be the characteristics of a house that could be built by right? And we hear 16 feet wide. It's pretty deep, so it could be fairly deep. Ms. Freshman?
Well, I see there is an alternative resolution for approval, but the conditions refer to the drawings on the survey. So
They would have to return.
I would, what?
If they want a use permit granted for different setbacks, they would have to return to you.
So my inclination was to deny the variance, and then I was persuaded by some of the conversation that approving a variance to allow the construction of something is okay, but does that mean that we would not include these, or see what I'm saying? See where I'm going here?
Yeah, I see the problem.
I don't know where I'm going, but I mean, basically, I'm not adverse to building something, but if granting a variance references back this application, then where are we?
Right, yeah, because the variance approval resolution references
Yes.
drawings that
Yeah.
we might not agree with.
Right. So
What's the pathway out of this?
And you can take, I mean, we can modify the conditions, or we can take those conditions out and say the conditions are contingent upon approval of the use permit.
Oh, I like that.
Really, the variance doesn't, we include the conditions, but we could get away with not doing that when there's a situation like this, when there's a use permit involved.
I think that, if I may, I think that I would, you know, I would argue that what's before us is determine buildability or not, which is grant the variance that it may be buildable. And that's where I was on. Now, they could decide, right, we could either decide to deny the use permit, then after that, approve it, or they could decide to withdraw it, go build as a matter of right. There is something that can be built as a matter of right if we get past the variance question. So, I mean, I don't feel, personally, as one member of the board, I don't feel the need for any conditions under making a lot buildable because of that had been determined to be buildable at one time, and under the rules of the ordinance is not. And how they fell into this is interesting too, because they in good faith bought and started down the road of building something on this piece of property, and then due to whoever's fault, not the county's, but whoever's fault, it suddenly changed the situation. So money's been spent and so forth. So
So can I make a motion to approve the variance for B-10984-15-VA3? Do I need to say anything else?
Or you could move the alternative resolution.
That's what I'm moving approval.
With striking everything after the numbers.
Strike, okay.
Subject to, and strike everything after that.
Striking, yes. Striking the 4 conditions.
Should we do an amendment referencing a use permit?
No, that's what we were getting to. That we did. Mr. Melnick just asked, should we do something referencing the use permit? But that's the discussion we just
We're
had.
just saying they can build.
You're just making the lot buildable, and we'll deal with the use permit that's requested
okay?
on the next one.
Okay.
Probably the best thing to do with the use permit, if they wish to, instead of do a by right option, if they wish to have some reduction in the setbacks, is defer the use permit to the next meeting, give them a chance to redesign and bring something else in.
That's an even better idea than I thought. See,
That's a good idea.
and in any case, where we might have been, we haven't had that discussion, we don't have that case yet. So why don't we close out this one? Do I have a second on the variance?
Everybody seconds.
Many seconds I have. Ms. Freshman made the motion, Ms. Malice seconded the motion. So there was a lot of discussion there. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Now we're on to the next case, Drew.
Yeah, this is case number V-10984-15-UP-1. Excuse me. This is a use permit request by Daoud Majididi and Maria Maldonado to permit a setback of 0.3 feet to the wall of the home and 2 feet to the egress window well from the left side property line instead of 10 feet as required, and 8.8 feet to the stoop base, 11.3 feet to the canopy overhang, 13.3 feet to the eave, and 14.3 feet to the wall of the home from the North Emerson Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. Finally, an aggregate side yard of 8.4 feet instead of 18 feet is required. It's for the construction of a new two-story home with a left side egress window well and a front stoop with a canopy overhang. It's in the R6 zoning district, a premises known as 2105 North Emerson Street.
Question?
Any questions of staff?
Yes, given that we just approved a variance with no conditions, your recommendation is to defer this use permit request?
And I think at this case, they're cutting it very close to the cutoff for the March date to get something in to me before the public notice goes out. It may behoove them to
Defer to April?
to April,
Okay.
if that's okay with the applicant.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Malice?
So I understand the applicant's options at this point would be either to attempt to create a by right proposal or come in with an alternate use permit, because the use permit that is here would not be satisfactory.
You can modify it.
Well, that's support. We could hear this and decide to approve it or approve something different from this, I would say.
So that's our first threshold is...
That is what we could do. We have speakers, they could decide that they want to ask us now ahead of any of that discussion for a deferral to look at modifications of the proposal they have or not. And I guess I have an additional question. They're actually requesting approval of the house that they had started down the road with that got backed up, or are they modifying from that?
Correct.
So they were under construction for this. The front wall or whatever it was came down, and that wiped it all out. But they're not making a change from that proposal.
No.
Okay. Why don't we ask the applicant before we go any further, if you would, could you come forward, please? And would you like, given the discussion you've heard on the variance so far, would you like to defer the use permit to have the opportunity to work on with the neighborhood and with the staff on an alternative proposal?
Yes, sir.
That might be better for everybody?
Yes, sir.
Then I should ask the speakers if they want to speak anyway. Is that the pleasure of the board? Sure. I have two speakers, Miss Willie Jackson Baker and Sean Martin signed up for this. Do you all need to speak? Mr. You only signed up for the first one, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Oh, no, this is not it. No, neither one of these. This is the other ones.
I was going to say our concerns are still the same. And if he's going to defer, I would just like to request that you truly work with the neighbors to resolve this. You know, our concern too is that for the last 22 months, look at what we've had to deal with. And even the designs that you have now are different from the designs that originally you presented to us, you know, and you don't at this point have the support of the neighborhood or of that block anyway. And we're a little tired of people coming in and doing what they want. You know, to me, that's disrespectful to the county policy. It's disrespectful to the neighbors, and to the neighborhood. So if you're coming in and you want to be good neighbors, you should be working with us and not against us. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Malice?
question for staff?
We have one more speaker. Get to the minute. Sean Martin, please.
Sean Martin, 2107 North Emerson Street. And I'm confused with, like, they've had time to put together a plan. Why would we have to wait another few months for them to come together with a plan they could have done over the past 2 years? And if they do that, I do ask that the current signatures be, from these two neighbors, be withdrawn, because that wasn't part of what we understand of the plans even presented today, let alone if they draw up some new plans.
This would be a deferral to a future meeting. Anyone who has commented in the past should comment again. It's almost like it comes up for us again as a different case. The reason that we are accepting the idea of deferring the case for 2 months is that we and the applicant have heard a lot of negative testimony. It gives him the opportunity to decide if he wants to make changes, change the proposal that comes before us, or make the decision to build something as a matter of right, rather than us ruling, say, against the whole thing altogether now, because one of the things that requires, we usually always offer somebody the opportunity to defer for a couple of months, because if you, say, take a denial, nothing gets approved, that's the end of this application. You have to start all over with the application process. There's a lot of fees and so forth. So we're willing to see if something better, something that can be supported, can be worked out, something that would be, the board would be amenable to approving, can be worked out between now and April. And the only reason we're not going to March is that actually the March meeting is only a few short weeks away, and we may not have the opportunity to run the appropriate public notice ads again in the meantime.
Okay.
The staff, that is.
I see it as possibly as a deterrent for the neighborhood to come back. If one of us can't come back, then our information can't be on record.
You may send letters.
You send letters, okay.
Emails, letters,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And this gives me the opportunity to go to the soapbox for a second. I had someone tell me one time that they were more persuaded by people who came in person. And I said to them, well, I certainly hope I'm not sick in bed and my comments aren't allowed. That's the purpose of letters and emails being accepted and as part of the record and comes to us. So when we get all these signatures that people present us, that lets us know how those neighbors feel about it.
Okay.
So
thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. Just coming to speak should not be any more weight than letters or other forms of communication to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Freshman.
And I think as well, the applicant has heard from the neighborhood and from the staff and from the board. And my hope would be that now that he has a variance that says this is a buildable lot, that's was easier than what comes next. But there certainly is an opportunity not just to redesign something, but to work with the neighborhood and make it a more collaborative effort. So that is part of the message that comes from us as well.
Yeah, I sure hope that. I haven't seen that from the sneaky way they've tried to do it.
Well, but you've heard it now, and I think that because it would not be wise or favorably received if we come back with, and we've had applications like that in the past where somebody just keeps on coming and asking for the same thing and doesn't seem to get it. So I think that should be part of this process, and in so doing, we would hope that there'd be a more positive result.
Ms. Malice.
Being new here, I don't know the answer to this question. Is the staff offer help in facilitating meetings between the applicant and the neighbors?
We don't. We, as part of the application process, we strongly recommend that they contact neighbors and the civic associations, but we really aren't a part of that facilitation.
Okay. So I think from my standpoint, it's incumbent upon the neighborhood, and may include the civic association, to sort of gather and decide, how you're going to engage as a group with the applicant. It will require some legwork on your part.
Okay, thank you.
And one more thing to be clear. There is a by right option that will require no meetings with the neighborhood or anybody. Now, it might be an unusual house, only 16 feet wide and very long. People have done that just because they didn't want to ask for variances or use permits, or have done it when we've turned down their requests. But there is a scenario, albeit unlikely, I think, that you could see a house constructed on the property, approved completely by ordinance, that really the county can't turn down on this property. That's my question when I said what could be built by right. It can be 16 feet wide.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Another question I'd like to ask staff. Would you be able to convey to the neighbors what by right options would be?
Absolutely.
So that they could understand what their default position would be?
Definitely. They're welcome to contact myself or any of our other staff at our front counter planners. They're the ones who usually answer general setback questions and things, but they can certainly contact me as well.
Do you know how to get in touch?
I do.
Okay.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you. I believe it's with the board unless there's other questions.
Motion?
Ms. Freshman.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals defer V-10984-15-UP1 to the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting of April 10, 2015.
It's April 15th. Just look that up.
Oh dear, April 15th. Don't take that as a bad sign.
It's been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. This item has been deferred to April. Next case, please.
Mr. Chair, before we move to the next case, I want to say one thing to the applicant, that some of the speakers have a lot of experience in the community. Ms. Baker was the former chair of that civic association for a number of years, so I think it would behoove you to try to sit down with them and listen to their concerns.
Okay, the next case tonight. Sorry?
Just Ms. Malice.
Because we're talking to the owner's representatives at this point, is that correct? And we're not talking to the owners themselves. I guess the owner's representative conveys this information to the owners, but I don't know who's the most appropriate person to be having this conversation with. It's up to the applicant, but you need to convey to the owners that a community meeting is definitely in order here. Thank you. Oh. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, our next case tonight is V-10985-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by BZA Tedeschi to permit a setback of 3.1 feet to the eave and 3.5 feet to the wall of the new home. Mudroom addition with the stoop above and egress window well from the left side property line instead of 8 feet as required. So 3.1 feet to the eave and 3.5 feet to the wall of the new home from the right side property line instead of 10 feet as required. Finally, 22.6 feet to the front mudroom addition and stoop from the North Cameron Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required, and an aggregate side yard of 6.2 feet instead of 18 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new 2-story home with a front mudroom addition with the stoop above and also a rear egress window well. This is in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 1718 North Cameron Street.
Any questions of staff? If not, can we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening. My name is Balai Tadese. I'm the owner of 1718 North Cameron Street. I owned the lot for a long time and hoping to build on the lot. The lot is 25 feet wide by 146 feet deep. And I'm asking for a use permit with a side yard setback of 3.5 feet on each side of the property.
Thank you, sir. If you don't have anything else, does staff, not staff, but board members have any questions for the applicant? I do have speakers. Would like to hear the speakers now. If you'd have a seat in the front row, we'll hear from the speakers, and then the board may have questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
The most important part, I have met with the Civic Association. I have had 11 letters of support from the neighborhood. And
thank you. Good. We believe we had some in our packet as well.
And I have with the Civic Association, and I have explained my position.
Did you want to give us these drawings too?
I'm sorry. Oh.
Okay.
I have met with the Civic Association, and I have explained what I'm asking for the property, and they have approved it.
Yes. All right, sir. Thank you very much. We have one speaker, Willie Jackson Baker.
I just feel like I need to say with this property too, it's a very narrow property. My concern, I don't know about anyone else, but I just need to express my concern, is for emergency services. 3 feet away from the property, and it's such a narrow property, and it's fenced in. I just think it's such a hazard to anyone who lives on either side of this property with the house. You can see from this picture that it's almost too small for a car to be parked there. So I have major concerns about the narrowness of the property, building, and it's not a tiny home, building a home of substantial size on such a property just presents a hazard to all. As you said, I've been with the Civic Association for a long while. He did come to us about 3 years ago about this same property, and we chose not to support him. I have to say that our Civic Association has gone through some changes, and there's a different administration, and I think their focus for community is completely different. I think they're just concerned about having something built on the property instead of having it vacant. My concern is the safety of whatever you build there. So, thank you.
Thank you. That's our speaker. It's with the board for questions.
I have a question.
Mr. Moore. I'm sorry. Certainly was. Livonia Sweeney? I'm so sorry.
My name is Livonia Sweeney. I live, I guess, one house. As you see the fence there, there's a house. I'm the house on the other side. Originally, I signed a letter that said it would be okay for Mr. Tadasi to build his proposed home there, but then I was looking at this paper I got in the mail from, it's the public notice, I guess, that you all send out. And it looks like the property is coming out to over the sidewalk. It looks like it's really close to the street. So it would be longer or past all the rest of the houses if that's what it's
supposed to look like. I would be opposed to such a long, if it's going to be longer than all the rest of the houses in the area, and the fact that the area is so small for such a large dwelling. I just wanted to change my vote to no.
Ms. Sweeney?
Yes.
Don't believe it comes out to the sidewalk. There's a driveway in what you might call the front yard that is 20 feet, supposed to be 20 feet deep.
Where is that?
I can show you on this if you want. Board members, can you show Ms. Sweeney this?
She probably, you have that report, you have this report, right?
Yeah, I'll show you. Here's the house back here and the stairs, and then front yard, there's two driveway spaces, just, paved driveway right there. See where it says proposed driveway?
Correct.
Right, this would be the house back here. So the house, Drew, what's that distance? 20?
The wall of the house will be
22.
31.1 feet, and then that stoop on the front will be 22.6.
Yeah.
And that's from the back of the curb, according to this survey, or the back of the sidewalk, according to this survey we have. So you have the sidewalk in addition.
Feet.
So would that be
But you can park
comparable,
cars in that area.
comparable to one of the houses on either side?
Looks like it from the picture.
The one on the right it would be, but the one on the left it wouldn't, is further back.
Yeah.
You see the picture up above you? See, there's two cars parked in the front. That essentially the house, there would be two cars parked there in the future too, but not a garage, just parked on the pavement. So it does sit back. It doesn't come all the way up to the sidewalk.
Yeah, so long as you, so long as you had so much
You're
space
welcome.
in the back.
Thank you. All right, well, with Ms. Sweeney, that's the last speaker. Mr. Melnick, you have a question?
Yes, to the owner. I see that the staff has recommended a 5-foot setback on either side up to the walls, and you're roughly 3 on either side. In planning this, did you consider narrowing it even more than the 18-foot wide? Did that go into the planning at all, like considering narrowing it? And if not, what are your main objections to it being any narrower?
I'm sorry, the staff recommendation is 5 feet from each side?
Yeah, the staff is recommending that, 5 feet on either side to the wall. But I'm just wondering, in your planning, had you considered narrowing it?
Well, we have to redraw it again, but that we are asking for 3.5 on each side because an 18 feet wide house would be much amenable to for a nice townhouse kind of house. It's not really a big house, but if that is not possible, we have to redraw it again.
Okay.
But the 3.5, is there any problem with the 3.5 feet?
We're discussing that now.
Yeah, that's what we're discussing now, is whether we might approve what you're requesting, we might approve what staff is recommending, or we might approve something else or deny it altogether. So if you want to, unless anybody else has any questions, you want to take a seat again, let the board discuss this for a few minutes. I would just point out, if my math is correct, this is a 25-foot wide lot.
Yes.
To meet standard setbacks, the house would be 7 feet wide. That would be with an 8 and a 10. So it suggests some relief.
The staff proposal would allow for a 14-foot wide home.
Even narrower than by right on the previous lot.
So, question for staff, what's the lowest that we've ever gone?
You mean the closest setback or the smallest width?
Setback.
For a new home, I think we've done 4 and change, the upper end of 4, like 4.8. I think the one on Culpeper Street was something like that. What was it, 1941, on a little teeny 36 by, or whatever it was, 36 by 36 foot wide lot or something like that. I can't remember what it was.
There's a series of houses on Barton Street that are on 25-foot wide lots, and I'm not speaking of the one that went as a matter of right, which I believe is only 12 feet wide, but that was because the very tall modern house. I think so too, but Mr.
I think that guy's out here somewhere.
I'll never forget the night he threatened us. He said, I'll build something that some yuppie from DC
He's
will.
waving at you, so you may.
Downstairs. You remember that? It was about 2 o'clock in the morning that meeting went to?
This one might if we.
It's a
That's
great
cool, huh?
So, but what I was trying to get at were some of the other houses that are in that stretch that were, I believe, granted some variances, and so they must be in that sort of. This one's 18 in that 14 to 16 to 18 foot range.
I mean, I do believe there's a reason for the side setbacks in terms of air and light. So there has to be, in my view, an extreme hardship to really go much lower. Not to mention, I mean, the building code issues of fire separation that kick in, that sort of really do degrade the quality of the home. So, obviously, people live in townhouses.
Yeah. Shotgun houses in New Orleans.
In Arlington.
And in Arlington.
I'm good with 14. The staff recommendation?
Yeah.
Okay, then let me ask this question before we move towards something that might be an approval either of the staff recommendation or something alternative. We don't have drawings of the staff's recommendation, correct?
No, that's
To condition.
So we would just be creating a box that they could build within.
Right, without conditioning to a particular building, which we normally do. So then, does that suggest deferral?
Well, you're asking, are we going to force them to come back with a plan for what staff would support?
Ms. Freshman.
I think if you do the staff report or staff recommendation and the width is 14 feet, why couldn't they go design something and go for a building permit based on the fact that they have approval
What's been our...
with defined setbacks, et cetera?
Do we require drawings with the application?
We've allowed to do that in the past, allowed an applicant to crunch something down, and I think they could do that. They could reduce the width of it and still keep the same elevations, or at least it's going to be a little more narrow and it's going to look a little different because of the roof pitch, but I think it's good, pretty much the same thing we have, just narrow.
Because in what we have in an approval recommendation, either for staff's recommendation or the applicant's request, refers to conditions approving drawings, essentially, as shown to us. So I don't know about in this particular instance, but there might be one where somebody was proposing a story and a half, and we said, okay, well, we're not going to approve 3 and 3, but we'll approve 4 and 4, and that's all we did. And then they decided to use the full height, which wasn't in the drawing. I used to work with the BZA many years ago, and things were very general. They weren't tied to specific drawings, but ever since I've been on this board and in recent years, it's always been very specific, and you have to come back if you move a window well, which we heard earlier this evening. So I, just want to throw all that in the mix.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm not uncomfortable acting on the staff's recommendation, which doesn't comport to the drawings, and that tells the applicant you've got approval for something different than what you asked for. You have to work within that with the basic description of the property that of the structure that you've put before us. But really not conditioning on those drawings at all. Really just saying that these are your new setbacks. I don't really have a problem with that. They can't, because they wouldn't get approval if it was too tall anyway, or if it, or if he encroached on the rear yard setback. It wouldn't meet the wall check then either. We do, our staff report, the staff recommendations do say you will build in conformance with the drawings that you've provided, but when you don't grant them permission to build what they've asked for.
And we did just approve a variance where we deleted the conditions that reference drawings.
Absolutely.
But I don't.
But we deferred in that case until they'd come back with something to fit this.
Right.
This lot that we made buildable.
That wasn't based on the building either. That was based on the lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, that was the argument I was making. That variances, it was different.
It is different.
That variance.
So is staff comfortable? What I'm trying to run through my mind is, are there ever any instances where what we're suggesting just by creating the box may not quite make it? There might be, if everything, if there are window wells, if there anything that was sort of on the facades just gets pushed in, right? Or would this necessitate the applicant rethinking the actual structure that might necessitate drawings?
That may be possible, depending on what the inspections department and the building code says. So, but usually in these cases, they've been able to do it. The ones I've seen come through, people have been able to shrink things down. That hasn't, there haven't been any changes that were required throughout the building permit process that would make them drastically change the exterior. If they have a window well now, they need one anyway. They're just moving it further off the property line. I think in this situation, he's probably safe.
Well, this would be 2 feet on each side if you want to look at it that way. 4 feet at what's it, 18 down to 14, right?
It's going to be a very minimal change to the actual front and rear elevation as well.
It may make changes to the interior design.
Significant changes.
Because, and that may in fact, what my interest is, if we felt that, we could do, I want to avoid having the applicant have to come back for some variance at some really future date when he gets stuck in the building permit process. And so is it cleaner to just take care of it now and take that extra time, or to have the risk that it happens in the future? Because when he starts moving interior elements, it may start to...
Yeah, I was just looking at the first floor with Mr. Smith, and if you look at the plan, the staircase on the left side is pretty much going to have to stay as wide as it is, and then the hallway 3/6 is going to have to stay that width. Well, then if you look at the next room over on the front, it's now 9/8. So essentially, the whole 4 feet is going to come out of that room, and it will be 5 feet 8 inches wide. And that it it's not, and as you go further back, some of the rooms, like the rear room, well, that's wide open. But there may need to be some considerable moving, perhaps the kitchen needs to come forward and be able to sit better in a space that narrow, or there needs to be another place for the staircase so that it doesn't eat up so much place. But there are certain things that require, depth that they really can't change because of
Yeah, they have to move the kitchen back, it looks like. Move all of that back.
Sort of very open plans work in small structures better. Not eaten up with hallways.
That's what I'm saying too. And sterility.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
Things like move this over here.
If anybody wants to try a motion, one mic pass.
Mr. Chairman, I am going to move that we defer this item to the April BZA hearing in order to allow the applicant to modify the drawings to be consistent with the county staff recommendations.
It's been moved by Ms. Malice, seconded by Ms. Freshman, to defer this case to April to allow the applicant the opportunity to modify drawings to be in accord with the staff recommendation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next case, please.
Next case is V-10986-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Ari and Andrea Perlman to permit a setback of 5 feet to the eave and 6 feet to the wall of a new 2-story addition from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required. So construction of a new 2-story right side addition is in the R6 zoning district, premises known as 205 North Fillmore Street.
Any questions of staff before we hear from the applicant? All right, let's go ahead and hear from the applicant, please.
Hi, thanks for staying so late for us. I'm Ari Perlman. This is my wife, Andrea. We're the owners. We have emails from the neighbors immediately to both the left and right side of our house, as well as behind it, so which would be facing the addition. I have 5 copies.
Sure. All right, thank you.
We'd just like to ask for the ability to expand over what was the existing porch, which would be in the master bathroom.
I have to ask you a question. Who's Ziggy?
Ziggy's our dog.
That's what I thought.
And Elon is our 10-week-old that's at home right now.
They can be your best ambassadors.
Or not.
That's funny. Usually they win, though.
Yeah, they are.
Any questions of the applicant while we've got him up here? I also have a speaker slip for Clark Simpson.
Oh, I filled that out. Clark's our builder. Bob.
So if we have questions. Yeah, fine. Any Simpson will answer a question. Thank you very much then. So with the board, we have questions, comments?
Just a question for staff, sorry. In the instance when the staff report says that staff has not received any signatures, and then we receive signatures at the dais, is that reflected in the minutes?
Actually, we don't, but we can.
I just...
If you'd like that put in there.
But the package is a record, isn't that correct?
Exactly. We keep it in the public record.
Because I would want people to know that we indeed did receive public comment, and that was based on
Well,
the
public
influence.
comment is noted.
Public,
in the
oh, sorry,
minutes.
but written,
Written isn't.
Written
Right.
is made part of the record by.
If somebody speaks at the meeting,
okay,
But there's a transcript,
okay.
which has been produced in court. I can't tell you how many times, but, so it is reflected, but
Okay.
these don't, the
They're
minutes.
not
They're
re-
not
they're
in the
not
minutes, and the minutes themselves have very little in them.
Right, they're just the motions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. And do we still maintain hard copy of the BZA packages? Is there a point way back in history where they went to computer and are not hard copy files? You're working on, that's too bad.
we have half a warehouse full of the boxes. Yeah, but yeah, you've seen them. You've seen Woodmont. We moved them, but
They're easy to work with computers. Okay,
Motion?
please.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving use permit V-10986-15-UP1 with conditions.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
If I
Smith.
might say, the house on Martin is very attractive, even though it's very narrow. Every time I go by, I still marvel at it. It came out very well, actually.
It's a landmark.
Yes.
Everybody knows the skinny house.
I like it.
You should Google it. The support was only 50-50.
Ours is more traditional.
Yeah, we know.
Everybody else is.
all right. So that brings us to our last case tonight.
He was so mad.
Is V-10987-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Nam Lam to permit a setback of 4.1 feet to the air conditioning units from the right side property line instead of 5 feet as required, 7.1 feet to the 3-story home from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required, 12.8 feet to the eave of the home, 13.4 feet to the porch eave, 13.7 feet to the chimney, 13.8 feet to the porch base, and 14.4 feet to the wall of the 3-story home, and then also 20.7 feet to the areaway from the South Fern Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. This is all to permit, and add that in, and to permit a building exceeding 2.5 stories within 25 feet of a right-of-way. And this is all for the construction of a new 2.5 story addition above the existing main building footprint with eaves, a new front porch, a new left side chimney, a new left side basement areaway, 2 right side air conditioning units, and then also to permit structural alterations to a non-conforming building. This is in the R5 zoning district on a premises known as 602 20th Street South.
Any questions for staff before we move to the applicant? Applicant's representative here? You, Adam Crane, could you come forward and tell us about this project?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for staying late for me. It's been a lengthy project working on this, quite a few months involved. We do have an approved building permit that more or less is for the plans that I've shown in the package towards the back, the new plans. The biggest things that we're here for today is that the existing basement, existing joist, ceiling height's just over 6 feet. It's unusable. We're trying to build a nice new home, just like the one right next door, that kind of matches the market demand and the demographics in the area. And I think if we're putting, over $1 million in construction into a nice home, and we've got 6-foot basement, it's a storage room. It doesn't really match the rest of the home that we're putting in. So we're asking for the ability to make alterations to a non-conforming building that would basically consist of raising the first floor joist with a knee wall on top of the existing structural, so that we could have a basement ceiling height of at least 8 feet. And the rest, I believe, the other one that might be in contention is 2.5 stories versus 3 stories. It seems like the proposed alternative that's in the package allows a 3-story. The recommended one allowed the 2.5. I think we can go either way with some modifications to the roof pitch. I don't think we're going to push too much against that. So if we can get if we could be allowed to have the 8-foot ceiling heights in the basement with the adjustment to the structure, and also allowing us to do the open front porch. We're not changing the size at all. It's just it's decrepit and falling apart, so we want to replace the structure of the front porch. So those two things are really our key points. The rest, I think, we're not going to fight you on. That's not what we're here for. We've tried to reach the neighbors unsuccessfully. We can try harder if needed, but I don't think we're asking for anything too crazy. That's it. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. I would like to ask a question of the staff. Just to do the shorthand on the record, was this proceeding with a building permit to do all this stuff and then the changing structural walls, bring it back in?
Yes.
So in a sense, that's what we're approving versus, which involves then, because it's non-conforming, approving all of these.
That the floor joists, a couple different things that were done, exactly. A lot of this could have been done by right without the eaves and without reconstructing the porch, so that, you know, the second story, now a 2.5-story building can be there, but the fact that the loft level is considered a story under the ordinance, that's an issue that wouldn't have been able to be done by right because it's within 25 feet of a street right of way.
And I believe that's the 2-foot knee wall maximum. Is that correct? Is that what kicks it over?
That's right.
And that's what I referred to earlier. That can be adjusted with the roof pitches and a dormer or two. I think we can comply with that with no problem.
But if we approve what's requested,
That would make it a little bit easier for us.
that covers it all. That was already approved under the building permit.
No. The third story would not be allowed. Now, he could have a very similar looking structure. It's really about that third story.
But he could do the knee wall.
If he reduced the knee wall to 2 feet or less,
He said that
look exactly like what they got approved for.
he could work with that.
Exactly.
My questions, my probing is to figure out if we're getting something with all of these, I'll call them variances, because the place was non-conforming and they took down the wrong wall.
Right.
Or are there additional things that are coming about since we're here anyway?
I don't think there's anything additional other than really the basement height.
Who are we? It's kind of by right building
I
permit.
thought that you said that no, there was one thing additional, and that was the third story.
We have the third story. We have the areaway, which is 0.3 feet too close to the street. And then we have the front porch. Once they take that front porch down, they cannot rebuild it, but they're rebuilding it. So
Yeah,
they have some minor issues.
I believe it was an enclosed front porch with some pretty subpar windows that we want to replace.
Question for staff?
Ms. Mouse.
These all, the neighbors get written communication from zoning on all these variances and use permits? Get written communications from the zoning office that there's a variance or a use permit? You send letters to adjoining neighbors?
We do, yes.
Okay. So that's one way that they're notified that something's going forward.
Then we also have the placards that are posted in the neighborhood. We post it on the website. We send a preliminary public notice as well as the final public notice, the preliminary being about 2-3 weeks before the final goes out. We send those to the civic associations, so they're aware as well.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
So what is the difficulty in the owner contacting the neighbors?
I'm not sure. I think that there's either been mail or calls and they just haven't responded. That's the most I know about it.
I mean, are the owners far away?
No, they're next door. It's the house on the left in that
Are
picture.
you just like knocking on the door, isn't it?
I believe I'm not sure what he's done, but
But they don't live there, though.
next door.
They live
Oh,
I believe they do
next
live there.
door?
They just haven't been there when he's gone by. So
Well, I think Ms. Malice makes a good point.
yeah.
I just don't know what's wrong with just walking over, knocking on your neighbor's door and saying, here's what I'm doing.
I believe that's what he may have done. It's just they might not have been home with a couple. I believe that's what he may have done. He may have gone and knocked over. I'm not completely sure, but he's tried to reach them one way or another. But also, I mean, what we're asking for is really, from the neighbor's point of view, it'll all be below ground pretty much with the basement. I don't think there's anything above ground in their face or out of their windows that they're going to notice.
Well, it's going to be a different house.
Than what was approved by permit? slightly different. It'll be the same house, same footprint, just with a larger basement and a little bit higher. Yeah, I wouldn't call it drastically different.
Sometimes a little bit higher matters
No.
to the neighbors.
The operative word,
No.
higher.
But that is something that neighbors are sensitive to because it changes privacy.
I understand
into
that.
backyards
And
or
light.
and light and
I understand that.
vision into windows.
Massing.
Yes, which can also be mitigated by complying with the 2.5 stories and reducing, the roof pitch.
So just a comment on the response to the public notice. The public notice for this board is the same as that given for the county board and the planning commission. Isn't that correct? The public notice that we get, that same letter, same type of requirements of letters, posting in the neighborhood, newspaper advertisements, and the same time that's required for all of the zoning related. That's why on the county board's agenda, not everything is advertised, because it's the zoning stuff that requires advertisement, not some of the other things that they have on their agendas.
Yep.
Like they have very much more than the zoning stuff.
So I think we go that one step further than the minimum legal requirement by asking people to actually make that personal contact. And that's not a legal requirement, it's a...
Correct. You don't have to do it.
Legal requirements, just the newspaper posting 2 consecutive weeks. I mean, that's pretty minimal if you ask me.
Well, it helps, Mr. Chair, if I might, it also helps with the condition that what the applicant is seeking not be of substantial detriment to the adjoining neighbors or really change the character of the zoning district. When you talk to them and give your neighbors a feel for what you're doing, it helps in that, bridge that condition or meet that condition. And also, Mr. Chairman, I mean, I was persuaded by what you said with respect to applicant, an individual is working on a house, they're really remodeling, and then because of deterioration or a condition that they didn't foresee, a wall comes down and now it's a new build. When had that not happened, they wouldn't be before us, essentially. So that says that I would. I mean, if you're ready for a motion, I'd try to field one, and that is that the board adopt a resolution granting the alternative resolution, which is what the applicant sought in V-10987-15-UP1, subject to those conditions that are listed in the alternative resolution.
Do I have a second? No second?
It was just.
I have a question for staff. If that as advertised was approved, then they could have 3 stories?
That's correct.
Yeah, I'm totally opposed to 3 stories within 25 feet of the street. Now, the applicant, as our representative has said, they could work with 2.5 stories, but if this is approved, they don't have to, and I'm opposed to that.
I understand your point, and maybe one question I have is what I'm looking at. It seems like there were 2 recommended resolutions. The first one would allow what we want to do with the basement, the modified structure with a 2.5 story.
Right.
And the alternative, which you just brought up for resolution, that one allows 3 stories.
So the first one.
Let's go with the first one. We're not asking for the 3rd story for 2.5.
Yippee skippy.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. I'll move that.
So that would not be the alternative. That would be.
All right. Mr. Smith's motion dies for lack of a second. Ms. Freshman?
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution denying setbacks of 4.1 feet to the air conditioning units from the right side property line, 12.8 feet to the eave of the 2-story addition above the existing home, 13.7 feet to the chimney, 13.4 feet to the porch eave, and 13.9 feet to the porch base from the South First Street right-of-way, but approving setbacks of 7.1 feet to a 2.5-story home from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required, and 13.4 feet to the eve of a new 1 1/2-story addition above the first floor walls, 14 feet to the porch eave, 15 feet to the porch base, and 14.4 feet to the wall of the home, and 20.7 feet to the area away from the South Fern Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required for the construction of a new 2-story addition above the existing main building footprint, a new front porch, a new left side basement areaway, and to permit structural alterations to a non-conforming building permit. And this is in reference to V-10987-15-UP1.
Second?
It's been moved by Mrs. Freshman and seconded by Ms. Malice. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay, I would give him the, everything except the 2 of the 3 stories, just for the record.
Okay, you got something?
Thank you, guys. That's all I needed. Have a good evening.
So that one was 4 to 1. Do I have a motion for the minutes from?
I move approval of the minutes of December 10, 2014.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions?
Abstention.
Are new members? Abstentions from Mr. Melnick and Ms. Malice.
I move adjournment.
Sure.
Yes.
We are adjourned then.
Aye.
Good job, Mr. Russell.
Yeah, no, you, with
3 o'clock?
Pretty good. I think you got the
part. I'm failing here. I'm failing my audition. I turned the water over on my papers the first time.
All of this part?
No, you moved it. You came in as if you'd been here 100 years. Thank you, Ms. Williams. Like your hair.
Celia did that every single meeting. I mean, it's ridiculous.
And you have to. They don't, so, no. If you get it the way we get it. No, you're going to get Cheryl.